And now on Who's Views, it's time for the latest headlines with JT and the Whotastic panel.
Hello. Welcome back to Who's Views. It's your Sunday big show. It's just gone 8 o'clock p.m. here in the UK, and this is Headlines. How are you all? Hope you are well. Hope you've had a very, very good week. I want to say straight away a huge thank you to our friend Digby Strawbridge. Thank you, mate, for your lovely super chat straight away up there. So thank you very much for that. Keep up the good work, folks. Hopefully we are witnessing the collapse of this deformed version of our show. Don't mince your words, Digby. Know what I mean? And which will clear the way for rebirth. Ooh, getting a bit sloppy there a bit as well. But thank you for that, Digby. We don't know, do we? We just do not. Personally, I'm not sure. I want it to be rebirthed, but that's just me. And you'll know that, everybody as well. But I want to say thank you very much, Digby, for that one. Great to see you all. And it's great to see you all coming into the chat as well. Hello to you all. How's your week been? Let us know. We have got the big show coming up for you as usual this evening. Huge big show for you because have you heard? Yes. How many chefs does it take to make up some ratings? We're going to be letting you very shortly because we are going to be bringing you consolidated joy in this particular show. Oh, yes, we are. And Stephen Moffat claims there is no agenda in Doctor Who. All that's coming up for you in this very big show that we've got for you. And let's bring them on right now. I have got Third Doctor Ian and I've got Paul with me here as well. Hello to you two.
Hello. Hey, boys.
Hello. Here we go again then with another big show with all our chums in the chat. Isn't that lovely? Oh, chums in the chat. New t-shirt coming up. Chums in the chat. I'll write that down. Chums in the chat. There we go. That's on the way, everybody, for you there. You two okay then, are you?
Not too bad. How are you?
Oh, wonderful, actually. Yeah, really, really good. And as usual, I'd just like to say a huge thank you to everybody that's been getting in touch with us here at Who's Views this week. Lots of you got in touch also about our War Games in Colour review, which got a little bit spicy, didn't it? But thank you very much, everybody, for getting it. It was all good fun, and we all ended up agreeing to disagree, which is how it should be. But yes, thanks to Paul Stenterford, to Simon Leavesley, to Craig Sims, to Stuart Busby, to John Sheridan, to Graham Buxton, Curtis Schweiger, Tony Crosby, Miles Stewart, Andrew Hoare, Farsight NC1IB, Mudcrab, Throgmoid, John Henson 5154, to Slumdog J, to Joshua, to Steve Ada, to Strozy Mead 4242, to RJ Andy 2, to Ron Zapp, to Nibbles 69 Chardenox, Craig Lightowler 2991, to Julianne, to Chiggy 118, to Triple Jazz Musician, Roy Tearsdale, George Rainey, TARDIS Time 6857, and Simon Eves 5940. Thank you so much, everybody, for getting in touch. Just a sample of all the people, guys, that were getting in touch with us this week.
That's lovely. Nice. Yeah,
really, really good. If you want to get
community.
Sorry, Ian.
Nice little community.
It's a lovely little community. If you want to get in touch with us, please do. You can. The email address is there for you. It's whosviews1@gmail.com. Whosviews1@gmail.com. Or you can put, of course, comments down on all our shows. Why not? Please leave us a comment and leave us a thumbs up as well. It's great to see you all this evening. Well. We're going to start actually with some sad news before we get onto the Joy to the World Consolidated. Because yes, you may have heard this weekend that Barbara Clegg has passed away this weekend. The amazing Barbara Clegg. Now, Barbara Clegg, if you don't know, if you're new to us and new to Doctor Who, well, Barbara Clegg was born in Manchester in 1926, and she pursued at the start of her career a career in acting. She actually played, guys, I don't know if you know this, she played Cleopatra opposite Cyril Luckham Caesar at the Liverpool Playhouse.
Wow.
I know.
I think I heard that story, one of the Blu-ray extras, I think. But it's interesting. She wrote Enlightenment, and he plays the White Guardian, isn't that?
Exactly. Yeah. It is actually. I mean, it's a great feat that. But there she was with that. Yes, she also played alongside in a tour of Australia with Catherine Hepburn. She did The Merchant of Venice. She did an awful lot of things like Emergency Ward 10 and, of course, Coronation Street. She also wrote, as we know, she wrote for Crossroads. She did the Chrysalids for the radio. And as we know, she did back in 1983, she came into Doctor Who to do Enlightenment.
Hang on, JT. Sorry, if I may interrupt, but surely that's wrong. Surely that's wrong. We've only got female writers in Doctor Who in the late 21st century, haven't we?
That's right. That's
Surely
right. That's
there
what they
hasn't
say.
been any previously.
Yeah.
That must be wrong. Can you check?
I've double checked and I triple checked, and actually I was there because Enlightenment is actually by Barbara Clegg. She was the first female to write for Doctor Who back in 1983. Everybody, so put that in your pipe and smoke it. But yeah, it's on this weekend, and as usual, you know, when we do these sort of things, it came as a bit of a shock to us actually. But you know, lots of love, lots of thoughts to her family and her friends at this sad time. But at least we've still got Enlightenment. What a show!
Which is a fabulous story. Fabulous story.
It is. It is a fabulous story. It's very visually striking as well, isn't it? I mean, I know they did the later release and did additional visual effects.
They did all that CGI stuff, didn't they?
But the original actually was quite a standout for that season for visual effects. Anyway, they were really good in the original. I remember I was quite impressed with them.
Well, they were all
that cliffhanger for part one, when you get that kind of resolution of what's going on, that is really lovely.
Exactly. And the thing was as well, because you know it was all the models and stuff like that, and the BBC were great at building models. The ships look fantastic in Enlightenment, don't they? They really do.
Do you remember, guys, running at the same sort of time? They had a commercial for Bailey's or something that had a similar thing, but they had ships flying in space. It was really weird. Sailing ships. And they obviously copied it from this. They must have done, you know.
I think. Well, wasn't it the year after?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
I think I'm sure it was the year after or something like that, because I vaguely remember that as well.
Yeah.
So,
stealing from the best, which is always good. Yeah.
Yes. So there you go, everybody. It would have been very amiss of us not to start with a mention of there, and we've lost another one, everybody. But Barbara Clegg, God love her, 1926 to 2025. But thank you, Barbara, for Enlightenment.
God bless you.
Thank you.
Into the chats now, and I want to say a huge thank you to Paul Thomas Ashworth for a super sticker. Makes my day when I get a super sticker like that. So thank you, Thomas. Paul Thomas Ashworth, thank you so much for that. That is absolutely brilliant. Hope you are well. Let's have a look. Let's go and say hello to everybody. It's great to see so many of you in the chat. Domgo is saying to us, did you hear that Lisa Nandy is proposing the license fee is removed and the BBC is funded by direct taxation? Unbelievable. Yes, we have heard something like that. More investigation needed into that. It's just a proposal at the moment. It's not a definite, but we are going to be keeping an eye on that, because that would be absolutely incredibly stupid. But what would you expect from the current Labour government?
They could all get abstain for having a vote entirely, can't they? They've done that before.
Yeah, they could do. They've got form, haven't
Just
they?
not bother turning up at all for that. That'll be fine.
Exactly.
I mean, if Lisa Nandy had, let's just say if she had more brain cells than your average plant, then she would probably see that the BBC would be far better going to a subscription model through iPlayer, as we've said before. Yeah. But the fact that that's not even seeming to be in the equation just shows how short-sighted and tax-obsessed this bunch of half-wits are, really. If it's not increasing existing taxes, it's inventing new ones.
Yeah,
it's an obsession.
Yeah, and right now, of course, who can afford it in the UK? You know, it's absolutely ridiculous. Graham is saying to us here, R.I.P. Barbara Clegg. I adore Enlightenment. It's a cracking story, isn't it?
Good taste, Graham. Good taste.
Really. And David Harding saying to us, oh, no. I mean, she had a long and hopefully happy life, but still, this makes me sad. It's always sad when we lose another one, isn't it? Really, really is. And Legion of James saying to us, 99 years old. Wow, what a great age. Bless her, and R.I.P. It is a great age. Really, really is. I hope she knew how important she was in that series of Doctor Who as well, the final of the Black Guardian trilogy.
Wasn't there a rumour she was going to write another story, but it fell through, I think. Yeah,
two of them. Yeah, but they were rejected by Eric Sayward and Andrew Cartmel.
That's a shame.
Yeah, they didn't like the tone. I think Bob Fanish got them, though, so you can have a listen to them there on wherever I think they got them as part of some sort of series.
Of course they did. They probably did 17 box sets based on one.
Probably script. Based on all that.
Being a fan, I'll have to check back. I don't think they have done as many as that, but I've not come across it so far. But, that's unlike them. There are lots of missing stories, honestly.
Yeah.
Genesis of Terror. That's oh my God. Anyway, don't get me
Well, I
started.
don't want to talk about them, so we'll move on.
Yeah,
We've got
yeah.
Castellan Spandex in here. I had no idea Barbara Clegg had done so much. And Paul Stenterford saying to us, R.I.P. Barbara Clegg, what a brilliant writer and performer. Enlightenment is one of my favourites from the 80s. And Derek Hart's also saying to us, please, I would like to mention my friend David A. McEntee, age 55, who died on the 15th of December. He wrote various Doctor Who novels and Star Trek, and in recent years, Star Trek magazine. Yes, David A. McEntee. I do know the name. I've got a couple of his books around here somewhere, I think.
I really enjoyed David's books. I really did enjoy his New Adventures books very much. I thought he was an excellent author. I think he was quite near to me at one point. I may be wrong, but I think he lived in Harrogate at one point. Whether he still did up to his passing, I don't know. But a very talented author.
I can see a couple of his here, actually. Sanctuary, First
Sanctuary
Frontier.
Sanctuary is sublime. That is my favourite. I love it. There's one with McCoy's Doctor and Ace in 1950s America with UFOs and the Master.
First Frontier.
First Frontier. That's excellent as well. Those two, Sanctuary and First Frontier, are my favourites of David's. Exceptional author.
Yeah. So thank you for that, Derek. And we've got Stephen Braddock saying, wow, 99 years old for Barbara. What a wonderful innings. Wasn't it just? Absolutely. Paul Schlufter is saying to us, Enlightenment is my favourite story of season 20. It's a brilliant one. Actually, I'm going to have to go back and revisit it. And Julianne, nice to see you. Thank you very much. R.I.P. Barbara Clegg, so talented. Yeah, really, really. And as we say, the first, if I'm sure I'm right in saying the first female writer for Doctor Who back in 82, 83.
Mm-hmm.
And they make such a fuss of things like that these days. Or do they? We're going to be coming up to that later on in this show. So thank you very much for all your comments there, everybody. Nice to see you all. Nice. Right, so we've got lots coming up for you in the show now. And now it's the time that I know you've all been waiting for and you're all going to love. Because, yes, last week, if you were with us, and a lot of you were, of course, last week we were talking about the overnights, weren't we, for Doctor Who Joy to the World. I say Doctor Who. For Joy to the World. Twirls moustache. Yeah, we were talking about all of that and where we were up to. And then lo and behold, on Monday afternoon, a little bit earlier than I personally expected, they produced the consolidated ratings. As ever, the one and only Mr. Bedweer got onto them straight away, and he's joining us right now with Consolidated Joy. Ooh. And there he is, everybody joining us. Hello.
Good evening, everyone. I'm back again.
Yes, you're back again. And thank you so much for doing all this wonderful stuff for us again, because this was actually quite exciting, wasn't it? This is the real update. This is the consolidated. It's all together now. So this is the entire Ncuti Gatwa era, really, isn't it?
So far. Yes. So.
Oh, God, there's more to come, isn't there? Oh, no.
Yeah, sorry, guys.
That's my tribute to Ncuti.
Oh, there's going to be tears before the finale for sure. Yes, so for those that watched headlines last week, this time last week, we obviously talked predominantly about the overnight figure. We did have a reported 7-day figure, which was 6.2, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that has since been clarified, and we have an official figure. Actually, technically, I found 2 official figures. So,
now
yeah,
that is what I call.
How can you have 2 official figures? How does that work?
So, again, we talked last week about a particular industry website and reporting service that I use, which is Broadcast, and they put out a TV-only number.
Oh.
Yeah, which was 5.7 million.
Oh.
Then the BARB themselves put out a slightly different number, which is, I don't know what else you're counting along with TV only. I think it's that 4-screen kind of thing.
Yeah.
But so the official number is 5.911 million viewers. We'll look at how that fits within BBC One for Christmas Day, but also Ncuti Gatwa overall. But the number that we quoted last week of 6.2, now allegedly that was the number being passed around within the BBC because it included those that watched on BBC Three. Now, we've brought this up previously when, for instance, Doctor Who magazine were reporting a reach figure, which, counts repeats and, how many copies of the DVD they're buying or however they came to those numbers. So the official figure we're going with is 5.91. But there was that 6.2 figure adding on BBC Three repeats. Now, again, we've suggested that this is the flaws in the system, that you can have these numbers open to interpretation, and you can have them counted up in different ways, when you are shown repeats of stuff. But if we're going to go down that rabbit hole, then, how many times has Genesis been shown on TV? How many times has Spearhead from Space been shown? Are we counting all of those numbers as well? It gets ridiculous. So we are only going with the official BARB number for these slides that we're going to put up.
So there you go. There you have it, Who viewers. You've got the official word there from that now from Bedweer. So you know what you're talking about now when you're talking about this on your social media or with your friends or whatever. You can actually refer everybody to this show, and Bedweer has just explained that as clearly as you can, although it's so nonsensical. Do you understand it? It's ridiculous. And that is what
frustrating is, like you say, is when do you stop counting? That is the scary part of this, isn't it?
Well, when it's 28 days apparently.
Yeah. when it gets the 20 million
to the number they want to hear, effectively. Yeah.
Mark Greaves, there's a lot of you in the chat enjoying this particular thing. Look at this, Mark Greaves. I bet they are counting people's pets as extra viewing figures. The pets would not even watch this. They haven't watched it since K9 left, to be quite honest. They don't care. We've also got here, Paul Rose saying it also includes pets, the blind, the deaf, and TVs and shop windows. Just Jordan is with us saying, flaws or the BBC and RTD fudging the figures to help themselves. You see, again, like with the Jodie Whittaker stuff, Just Jordan, it can't be seen to fail. Again, it's going to be tying in with what we're talking about a little bit later. And Paul Stenford saying, hang on a minute, I smell something fishy going on with the BBC viewing figures. Do you? I wonder why.
well, those that were putting these reports out, last week before we came on Headlines last week, and we're quoting this 6.2 number, we're quite positive. Oh, Doctor Who got more than 6 million. Yeah, that's okay. That's up on, the season finale and all this sort of stuff. But for some reason, getting over that 6 million mark was, seen as a good result. But in reality, the official number is under 6 million, and that ain't great.
No, I reckon sometimes when it comes to these figures, it's because everything has a KPI, everything has a target. And sometimes I think that somebody has gone somewhere saying, right, your show has to achieve this many million, because otherwise, why would they take something off? Do you know what I mean? Because that used to happen a lot. If a show didn't hit a desired amount, it was taken off the air. Now with Doctor Who, personally, I think it's that close to viewers to, if it hasn't already been made, the decision to say, pull that off. And I reckon somebody somewhere said, right, you've got to get 6 million at Christmas. And they did everything they can, stretching and pulling and all this to make sure it crossed that line. But you're going to show us actually it didn't, aren't you? But we've got lots of people in the chat. The Macronon is saying to us, the problem with delayed ratings is the well-founded fear that they are actually adding in the delayed days into the mix. And Bill Lowry's saying, open to interpretation, make them up as you go along to paint the best picture. Exactly. And Paul Schlafter saying to us, would they be saying this if they had got like 10 million views?
They would have to, wouldn't they?
No, they would leave it, wouldn't they, Paul, at 10 million?
Yeah.
Can I just say very quickly, hello to Garbage and Kirsty, who are both in the chat with you, making sure you're all lovely and jubbly. So thank you very much for those two. And Rick Storm saying, if you include all watch figures ever, then Joyless is the lowest ever ratings regardless. But as Bradweir has been showing us, that the Shooty Gatwa series isn't doing that well. Jason Parker is with us as well. Next, hypothetical figures. Aren't they already? Yeah, I think so. So let's get into this then. Let's get onto this one. You've got this first graphic for us.
Yeah. So we obviously put up the numbers for all the shows from whatever it was, 2 o'clock in the afternoon on BBC One through to the second episode of EastEnders. And now we can add those 7-day numbers as well. So you can see that the clear winners were Wallace and Gromit and Gavin and Stacey, and not just on the day, but also massive increases over that plus 7-day period. So, beyond the show's original screening. And Doctor Who is, there or thereabouts with the other shows. Strictly, it's done slightly better than the first episode of, both episodes of EastEnders. It's done slightly better than with the plus 7 rating. But it's not reaching the heights that the two obvious winners were. So 5.91 for Doctor Who. As we'll see, not the biggest increase it could have been.
Not at all. And I think that took an awful lot of people by surprise, didn't it, really? I think they were really expecting it to get over the 6, as you mentioned before. And it didn't, did it?
Again, it's this expectation that, people are watching on the iPlayer, people are watching when it's convenient for them. It's not translating in terms of the numbers. And we'll see in our next slide the shows that do massive numbers.
Yeah.
When it comes to iPlayer.
We'll put that up in just a second. Just Jordan saying, well, according to Bedouin Reliable Stats, it's definitely failing. And Margie's agreeing, saying the series still has the lowest ratings in the show's history. End of. And we're looking at all of Doctor Who, actually. It's now getting less than it did in the 80s, which is just incredible. Julianne is also saying Abbott and Costello doing the maths at the BBC. It reminds me of the 7 goes into 28 13 times sketch.
Possibly Diane Abbott.
Diane Abbott, yeah.
She's not known for her grasp of numbers, is she?
Oh, not known for a grasp of anything, really. Marine Boy 1966, are they including those who refer to themselves as they? If so, God knows how many that is. About 5. About 5, I would say. Yes, there's lots of that coming through. Thank you very much, everybody. And hello to Airwolf. Hello, this is my first time catching you. Eccleston is my favourite modern Doctor. Well, welcome to Who's Views, Airwolf. Please make sure you've subscribed. If you have already subscribed to the channel, please make sure that you have still been subscribed to the channel, because where else are you going to get good detail analysis like this? Nowhere. Because the BBC certainly aren't going to provide it for you. Julie Wendy is saying to us, the viewing figures is a better work of fiction than the series itself. Yes.
There's more imagination in it, certainly, yeah.
Yeah, and it's probably going to get far more views. And I'd like to say welcome back to our friend Into the Dark, who's here. Because he's a glutton for punishment, quite frankly. Get that whip. Oh, God, the ratings. Oh, knows what we're going to do when millions of people still watched. Well, they didn't. And Bedouin is just about to show you that, because you weren't here Into the Dark, which I was gutted about. You can go back and watch last week's show where we actually prove that your beloved show, unfortunately, is not getting any views at all. I want to say hello to Mark Greaves as well for your super chat. The delayed numbers for the Morecambe and Wise 1976 Christmas special have finally been released by the BBC. 45 million.
Well, it's been on often enough, hasn't it? Let's be honest.
I put it on DVD.
Yeah.
All right, then. So thank you for that, Mark. Thank you. Let's get on to this slide from Bedouin.
So this is the jump or the added figures. So when we take our overnight away from the 7 days, this is the additional viewers that all these programs on BBC One got. And Wallace and Gromit was the major winner. 6.89 million people tuned in. Woo! Beyond the original broadcast, the overnight date, which is apparently a record.
Is that record, really? Wow.
That is the biggest jump from overnight to plus 7 days for any program since they started doing this particular method of counting. And Gavin and Stacey was fairly close behind at 6.81, additional viewers, overnight to plus 7 day. So big jumps.
Huge jumps there. And let's point out to Into the Dark, though, where Doctor Who was.
Yeah, so 1.8 extra, million extra viewers for Doctor Who.
Yabu to you, Into the Dark.
Yeah. It's not brilliant.
So more people tuned in afterwards to watch Wallace and Gromit than watched Doctor Who entirely, overnights and consolidated.
Yeah.
By a big margin. You know,
I think we have to understand as well.
Isn't it?
The attraction of Wallace and Gromit goes through generations now, like Doctor Who used to do.
Yeah.
Because I remember Wallace and Gromit as a young man, and it's been there for all these years. What was it, 20, 30 years? Because I remember, what was it, A Grand Day Out, whatever it was called, when they went to the moon. That was the first one.
For the cheese, lovely, yeah.
Cheese, and was hooked from that moment on. And there's a general affection from several generations now to Wallace and Gromit, aren't they? They are part of our British culture, just like Doctor Who is. And the fact that they've come back after so many years off, they deserved a big, big hit. But the fact is, it was entertaining. So I reckon those people that couldn't watch on Christmas Day because they were with family or they were traveling or whatever, that's the one they wanted to see, that and Gavin and Stacey, because it's pretty obvious from that slide, Bedway, that Doctor Who didn't get a look in.
No, not really. I mean, it did slightly better than most of the other shows. Call the Midwife did particularly well with 3.21 million extra viewers.
That's great.
That's a really strong result for Call the Midwife in particular. But Doctor Who is fourth greatest increase on that list, but it's all kind of around the 1.5, 1.25 million kind of numbers for BBC One shows. So it's not a runaway. You can see what the runaway successes are. And they're the programs that have been off the air for a little bit. There was anticipation for, something fresh and new that we hadn't had on Christmas Day for a little while. And people not just watched it on the day, but if they missed it, they came back and they did watch it. Wallace and Gromit's a great thing to put on for the kids at any point over, the Christmas
of all ages.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's fantastic. But that's apparently a record. So fair play to Aardman.
Amazing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And when we look at that as well, the people that were catching up with Doctor Who, I reckon the majority of that would be diehard fans that have gone back to understand the episode and watch it again a couple of times. Pals of Into the Dark and all that, who have gone back and watched it again and again. I reckon that's them, because I watched it once. I'll never watch it again. Utter rubbish. And I would always say to people, don't bother. Go and watch 2 Bits of Plasticine or Wallace and Gromit. You know what I mean? But yeah, so well done to Wallace and Gromit and Gavin and Stacey there. That is phenomenal. You've put that then, you've transferred all this data into this one.
Yep. So these are all the Doctor Who episodes broadcast on Christmas Day, all the way back to the Feast of Stephen. Let's not forget that, but the Feast of Stephen was watched by 7.9 million viewers.
And that's still doing better than Joy to the World, which is good.
Yeah. Obviously, it's a different time. We know that. Let's not, get too defensive. But it just proves that from the 7-day number, it's the lowest 7-day number for a Christmas Day episode, matching the lowest number for an overnight episode. Overnight number for a Christmas Day episode. So yeah,
I think Bedway, I think as well. Just going back to Feast of Stephen, I mean, you're talking what, 1965 or thereabouts, and we have to bear in mind how many televisions were in circulation in 1965.
Good point.
Well.
If
you seasonally adjust for the number of TV sets, because that ultimately dictates the number of people that could watch it, and if you made it a comparable number of TV sets and people, because the population was significantly lower in 65 as well. I know in 66, Paul and I added an extra 2 to the numbers, but in 65 there was a lot less people around than there are now in Britain watching TV. I think that 7 point whatever it was million figure would be significantly higher again.
I mean, it would be nice, if we had sort of audience share and things like that for that sort of era, because obviously, it was only a handful, 2 channels at that point.
2 channels, so you weren't going to get that, were you? It was 50-50.
Yeah, exactly. You're either watching one or the other, so it's not a fair comparison. But it would be interesting, of the population, It's a good.
They'll be lost in space on ITV. Who knows?
I don't know. I can't remember in the 60s what they put up against Doctor Who.
On Christmas Day, what did ITV have on Christmas Day?
I don't know. Probably the wrestling. Hugh Janus, thank you so much for your super chat as well, saying Abbott had grasped a pie or 8. That's clever. I like that one. Thank you very much. Duckula is with us saying Baldrick Mathematics. There's a lot of you here, so thank you so much. Legion of James is on a bus. Sorry, trying to type on the bus and it's failing epically. Well, interesting. Get them all to subscribe to the channel. That would be great. And John's saying to us, sounds like Rachel from A Cancer the hand in this.
Master of the double entry again. Yeah.
We've got some lovely comments here. Tony Crosby saying Wallace and Gromit hugely deserved, and Frank Spencer's with us saying Wallace and Gromit was superb. It was funny, wasn't it? Tiddler says Lee. He says Tiddler was getting close to Doctor Who. Tiddler, for those of you outside the UK, was what these things that the BBC tend to do now on Christmas Day, which is taking a favourite children's book and animating it. So they've done a lot of classics, and I believe this year they're doing J.K. Rowling's The Christmas Pig for children. I believe that's in the works. So that'll be either this year or next year, because animations can take years.
Can we campaign for the boy who kicked pigs? That'd be quite good, wouldn't it?
That would be funny, wouldn't it? Get some money. Norbert was a great villain, said Noodle Arms. He was. Now, I said this last week. Norbert in the Wallace and Gromit Christmas special should have been a Doctor Who villain, because it was a gnome, a garden gnome that came to life. That's Doctor Who all over. And yet Wallace and Gromit got it first. And what did we get? I've forgotten, quite frankly, what we got, but it wasn't that good, was it?
Yeah, can't remember.
We got that person from Derry Girls eating a star.
Oh, that's right. Thank you for reminding me. I won't sleep tonight. Mill Larry is saying to us, millions actively switched off Doctor Who, then switched back on for Wallace and Gromit, Bedweer. Not wrong.
Yeah, so we talked about this last week when we compared our sort of peak audiences and the overnight, average, and we speculated that people were tuning in 5-10 minutes before Wallace and Gromit started at the end of Doctor Who, and that's what pushed the peak number up, because it had a significant drop off. So if you've not seen that discussion, go back and watch last week's episode. But it is interesting that. The position that, Wallace and Gromit following Doctor Who. But, we've obviously talked about Wallace and Gromit, but Gavin and Stacey was the clear winner. Massive, massive numbers for a show that hadn't been on the air for 5 years. Makes a difference.
It really does, yeah. So Sydney Rough Diamond is with us saying consolidated numbers just means Doctor Who's modern audience is less than 2 million approximately. The normies bolstered it, tuning in for Wallace and Gromit, as we all thought. Absolutely. We know as well that the not-wees are not watching Doctor Who, because Bedweer joined us for our ratings analysis for the first part of the Gatwa era, that series that came on last year. So we know about that, don't we? We know they weren't there, and it was going down every single week, just as it has been doing since Jodie Whittaker episode 1. It's been going down every episode, bar 2 in the series. Wow, clay acting beats wooden acting. Shocking, says Mark Milford there. Doctor Who needs a big day out, says Neville.
A big day off, I think, more importantly, yeah.
Cracking number fudging Gromit, says Paul Rose. Absolutely. And Julianne saying to us, an additional 1.8. So the people who actually sought the show out, not when it was just on waiting for Wallace and Gromit, indicates 1.8 is where the weekly episode figures will be. And that means I will win the ratings game every week. Who wants to watch a show about a camp man chasing a suitcase, says Domgo.
Yeah, it doesn't grab you, does it, really?
When you put it like that. That was the episode, really. And Anthony Parkinson saying, I saw a Whovian, I hate that term, defend it by saying, if you ignore all the things that beat Doctor Who, then it did quite well. Pardon?
That's interesting logic, don't you think?
No. What does that mean? Absolutely hilarious.
There is an argument that, Doctor Who came, 6th on the chart, was the 6th most watched thing for the week. There were a couple of other things. So I think Outnumbered on Boxing Day and Call the Midwife on Boxing Day beat it in the ratings. So it was the 6th most watched thing for Christmas week, which, it's a decent number. But you could see where the two real winners were. And that really is, something we've been saying on this channel is it just needs a rest. And it needs
a long rest now. Get it off the air. And will this be the year 2025 when that actually comes true? I've got a feeling it will be, but stay with us here on Who's Views as we go through all that. We'll be here with you all through this. It's going to be an exciting year with all the news one way or the other, I am sure. We've got Legion of James saying, no matter their desperation and whatever they try to fudge, the truth is undeniable. They have failed and utterly annihilated the show. Excuse me why I give a smug chuckle. Yeah, it's sad days, though, because they could have gone so easily the other way had they just produced Doctor Who and some really good stories, you know. Guys, the Lady Knightsbridge is with us. If whomever writes these Doctor Who episodes had the creativity to come up with baddies like Feathers McGraw, then it might have made the show more watchable.
Yeah. Because Feathers McGraw could have been the master, couldn't he? That'd be quite good. You know?
He probably is, considering to all that lot who watch War Games in colour. They loved him. It probably is. The War Chief regenerated into Feathers McGraw. There you go. There's the canon.
And that's canon. That's canon. No, okay, I'm saying that now. Yeah.
He's evil Frobisher. You know, Frobisher. Like
I love the idea. That's fantastic.
Before his final regeneration, he turns evil and turns into
Feathers McGraw, an anagram of Master's Beak or something like that.
Yeah.
That would have been during JNT's era, wouldn't it? That would have been what.
It would have been, yeah, because he loved all that. Bless him. He absolutely loved all that. Mark A. Rice is with us as well. Taking them just on their own, it looks like Doctor Who's 7-day plus ratings are dropping compared to the past episodes, Bedwyr.
Yeah, so we'll look at the overall Shooty Gatwa era, and there's a downward trend. So here we go. So obviously it's a big jump because Christmas Day is slightly different from, Empire of Death, whenever the hell that was broadcast. I can't even remember.
Neither can I watched it.
June-ish, wasn't it? Something like that.
Yeah, it was around June,
June-ish, something like that.
It was the summertime, wasn't it? Yeah.
We're all like touching grass, remember? So,
we were, because it was summer and we've been told to. Anyway.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is a big jump from that episode in particular, but it's quite a drop from, this time last year. Church on Ruby Road, just under 7.5, and now it can barely get above 6 million over 7 days. That's 1.5 million of your audience that's said, no, it's not for me. And when you're working with numbers that are relatively low, 7.5, we're not talking Gavin and Stacey Wallace and Gromit numbers. They can't really afford to think and push away 1.5 million viewers.
No.
And what's interesting is, as you look at that graph, you can see the difference between, the blue line is obviously our overnights, and then our orange line is our +7s. So you can see how the gap for the Church on Ruby Road between blue and orange is quite wide. It's quite a big jump, but it's definitely narrowed this year for Joy to the World. Those two dots are much closer together. So that 1.8 million, people seeking out, as someone mentioned in the chat earlier, these are the people that, I've missed Doctor Who. I'm going to seek it out and I'm going to watch it. That audience is dropping.
This proves to me that the damage has been done. And I think the 3 episodes from with David Tennant had to contribute to this as well, because of the backlash it got here in the UK and how it started to dissipate with the ratings from then on. But when you look at that as well, it's down on last year. It's down on his proper debut episode from the Church on Ruby Road. It just shows to me that throughout this year, the general public have been so unimpressed, so uninspired, just don't want to know. They just haven't bothered to go back to Doctor Who, even on Christmas Day. It just didn't work. There are other things for them to do and other things to watch, and other, this is it, isn't it? You cannot deny it, and people will. But look at that. That proves the point. There is a massive apathy towards this version of Doctor Who, and it's
even at 28 days, it's going to be much lower, because the 28-day figure is 8 million, isn't it, for Church on Ruby Road? Is that right?
Yeah.
So even with that being higher after 28 days, based on what we've got now, I reckon that Joy to the World will be much less than 8 million. It's got to be, hasn't it?
Yeah.
You never know. The 6 fans that are still watching might watch it on a loop on iPlayer, for the
until their eyes bleed.
For the next 3 weeks and bump that up a little bit. But it's not going to get anywhere near 8 million.
No. So Entertainment Creator wants to know, what is the blue?
So the blue line is our overnight figure. Orange is the +7. And the green is our +28.
There you go. There you Go.
So 3 different sets of numbers for episodes of Doctor Who broadcast.
Their really horrific number is that is the Empire of Death one, really, isn't it? The difference between the +7 and the +28 is virtually nothing. And that is, aside from Christmas, that is the most recent episode. It was a series finale, if you want to call it that. And the fact that between +7 and +28, it hardly shifted. I think that underlines more than anything that it's dead in the water, really.
Yeah.
Can I just at this point bring in the keyring of Rassilon and saying the gleefulness you have for Doctor Who's disappointing figures is a tad depressing. Sorry, I didn't rate it particularly highly, but I don't understand the joy, no pun intended, you all have for its failure. Simply, I'm going to put my hands, I'll talk to myself here, because I want this version to fail. I don't like the way they have treated Doctor Who since the Chibnall era. They have been pushing DEI continually, and we're going to be talking about that in this show. All it's been about is ticking boxes. It's not been about care of the show. It's not been about care of its fan base. It's not been about care of writing science fiction, good quality science fiction, and bringing that out. It's not honored the legacy of the show. It's not honored the character of the show. They even recreated the character of the Doctor keyring of Rassilon in the Whittaker era, from what everybody's telling me, and made him not only just the female version, but not even the same Doctor. I believe the guys have been telling me he's not even a Time Lord anymore. That's not Doctor Who. And when you treat a show like that badly, I'm sorry. And when you piss on the fans from a great height, by God, I want this thing off the air. And yes, I want it to fail. And I'm holding my hands up and I'm telling you all right now.
Can I stress that when we came into this, reviewing this from the 60th, we all agreed we'd try and give it an open mind. We tried that, and it didn't work for us at all. So we've tried that, and now we're giving our opinion on it.
And the fact is, they have told the fan base on several occasions now, Gatwa himself, go and touch grass. Whittaker, this isn't for you anymore. Chibnall, this isn't for you anymore. RTD, telling fans to F off on his Instagram when they've been concerned about the Davros issue, or the drag queen issue, or the space babies, or whatever else. No, this is not Doctor Who. No,
we love Doctor Who, and I think without it being arrogant, I think we've got enough skin in the game, and we've got enough years behind us of watching Doctor Who, and certainly the merchandise and everything else. I think, we've got decent credentials to know what is Doctor Who, and the fact that this abortion that's shown on TV every year since Chibnall took over, and was going that way with Moffat, to be fair, is just absolutely not Doctor Who in any way, shape or form. There's a police box there that's bigger on the inside than the outside, and that's it. It's nothing else like what Doctor Who was. And that legacy, that institution that is, in some respects, should be seen as a work of art because it was revered by the British public, has now been made into an absolute joke. And the people doing it deserve absolutely zero respect. And they don't deserve any success because it's shite. And
they
hope
turn Doctor Who into a vehicle for their own outlook, their own agenda.
It's agenda pushing, and I know we're going to come to that as well later. But it is agenda pushing, and it is not anywhere near. We've said it before. We're doing Spearhead from Space in a few days. You look at Spearhead from Space. By God, that's Doctor Who, and that was a huge change from what Doctor Who had been up to that point. It was a massive formula change, but it was still Doctor Who and it still worked. Now you take that and you look at the dim bint that fell to earth, or any of these Gatwa rubbish.
I wish it was called that. It'd be brilliant title.
It was in my head. You compare those and tell me that's the same program, because by Christ, it isn't.
It's not. It's not at all. You can't compare them.
You can't deserve anything.
The fact is, keyring as well. It is now. I don't know if you're in the UK or not, but if you are, you should know. This thing is looked on with derision by the general public, as most of the BBC output tends to be today, because the BBC's obsession with all things nonsensical, agenda-driven, tokenism, virtue signalling is now so out of date. It's unbelievable that the general public in the UK have woken up to this, and Doctor Who, unfortunately, is a victim of this. So I don't feel any loyalty to this show just because it has a police box, a bastardization of the theme tune, and the words Doctor Who in it, because it's not that I can't even see the Doctor in his own show. Because if anybody tries to tell me Ncuti Gatwa is playing a version of the Doctor, I'll turn around and say, no, he's not. He's playing somebody from EastEnders. I mean, look at the outfit.
I have to say, I find it depressing that I don't like this, because I want to like this. I want to like Doctor Who. It's my show. And I'm heartbroken it's not Doctor Who anymore. I really am, So
just to chip in, really. So I've not watched any of the Ncuti Gatwa series. Well, apart from what was it, Legend of Ruby Sunday? I've watched that one and
you watched that one.
But for me, I was a bit frustrated by the way that the numbers were being reported, and I'm very grateful to JT and this platform to be able to present the numbers in, I think, a more of a neutral way.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to present these numbers for all our, Who viewers to watch and make their own conclusions of, really. Obviously, I've got my own opinions as to, that's the lowest number we've ever had for a Christmas special over 7 days. I'm going to point that out and think that's quite poor.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to come at it from a neutral perspective by presenting these numbers as fairly, and as we kicked off this bit of the show, when they're putting out numbers that are 6.2 because they've added on a BBC Three repeat,
ridiculous.
It's not the official number, and I don't think the reporting of these numbers is always accurate. And I'm grateful, as I say, to have this opportunity to try and redress that balance on this show and this platform. So,
I don't even think they should be allowed to do that. BBC Three is a completely different channel to BBC One, completely different, and it's shocking because it's got its own figures and it's got its own problems and it's got its own dramas at the moment, especially when it comes to that old Crohn's drag race. Which people are saying it gets millions and millions and millions of viewers after this week as well. It gets millions and millions and millions of viewers, but does it? No, because it's got a stronger fan base than Doctor Who does at the moment, and they go back and watch it over and over and over again. But you can see from what the public say about things like that, they're not watching it. Keyring of Raslan has got back to us saying, okay, fair enough, thanks for the honesty. Well, we're always going to be honest here, isn't it? But what happened, what we like to do here on Who's Views is we all stay friends at the end of the day, because the big picture is Doctor Who. We love Doctor Who. And one of the reasons I'm so intent on getting this thing off is so we can bring it back at some point properly. And I just don't think the world today is currently ready for Doctor Who. And you've got too many showbiz people with their heads up their arses, quite frankly. At this point, just before we go back to Bedweir's fabulous graphics, I'd like to say hello to the Cat Tourist. Welcome to Who's Views. It's nice to see you. Who's told us that ITV Christmas Day 1965 at 6:35 was Thunderbirds. Of course it was. The Feast of Stephen BBC shown at 6:35. Of course it would have been.
Here's a challenge for the Cat Tourist. What are the ratings for Thunderbirds then? Can you find out?
Which Thunderbirds episode was it?
That would have been a 50-50 split in my house for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I want to say thank you to the Cat Tourist for that. Welcome to Who's Views. And also in the chat today, I want to say a huge happy birthday to Daryl. Our friend Daryl Joyce is in the chat. Everybody say happy birthday to him. Yay!
Happy birthday, Daryl.
Happy birthday, Daryl. Hope you are well. And that reminds me actually about this. Let's have a look and see what's in the calendar for January and Daryl's first ever calendar, Moments in Time 2025. Well, I can tell you it is this stunning piece of art here from the Ark in Space.
Look at that.
There's the date. But look at that. We've shown them before on the channel, but there you go. Starting the year off with a bang there. So happy birthday to Daryl. Thank you for that.
It's a great calendar. How are plans coming for next year's one?
Oh.
The dinosaur on the cover, wasn't that on this day as well? I think 12th of January. I've seen some people saying the T-Rex coming through the wall.
Would be in around about now. Oh, yeah. I can't remember offhand.
I'm going to check.
Remember offhand. Lots of people saying happy birthday to you, Daryl. There, so take all of those for yourself there. So yes, thank you, Tim. Right. What's Carmen saying to us here? Problem is, people say the overnights don't matter. People don't consume TV like they used to. But while on the other hand, saying, look at the overnights for Gavin and Stacey, unmissable television. This is what gets me, again, Carwin. We're going to be talking about hypocrisy in this particular show as well, of show business. They always bend the rules to suit themselves. So it's always, you know, we've had this before, and we've spoken to Bedweir about this before. The last Doctor Who series, the Church on Ruby Road and everything, did really, really well. Fabulous, because people were watching it on the iPlayer. And then along comes Gavin and Stacey and Wallet and Gromit and blows all that theory out of the water. You know, doesn't it really? When you look at it, because it got huge overnight ratings, which they all went, yeah, my God, yeah, that's the biggest figures we've had in years. Oh, it's nearly Morecambe and Wise levels. And then they get the increases on the iPlayer, and they're all going, ah! But it just blows out all this other stuff about anything that gets an extra 1 million, 2 million on the iPlayer. It just shows you. And in Doctor Who's case, it's a small audience who will go back and watch it over and over again on the iPlayer until they get the Blu-ray, and then they'll watch that and watch that and watch that, because they don't know anything else. You know, I suppose we all did it, really.
Yeah.
Right, so let's get back into that. So we had the Shooty Gatwa era there, didn't we? So that was that one. As you can see, it's not doing well, everybody, as Bedweir has pointed out. Let's add that to this particular one.
Yeah, so this is one of our favorite graphics, and this again kind of picks up that point, really, with this narrative that's been pushed. We talked about it last week, how Russell T Davies went on the Today program on Radio 4 at the start of December and said, oh, well, you know, more than 50% are watching on the iPlayer. These are the numbers that say that is not correct, because for Joy to the World, 4.11 million watched it live as an overnight figure, and we've seen that increase by only 1.8 million. You know, that's quite a small chunk relative to your 4.11. And throughout the series, we've pointed out that only Boom sort of bucked that trend. And it was a slightly weird one where the increase from overnight to +7 day, so our green blocks within these episodes, and then our +7 to +28 day increases, the purple bit on top, actually exceeded the overnight, and that Boom was the only exception. And again, picking up on our earlier point, you can see how the increase of 1.8 million from our overnight is, you know, nearly 1 million fewer than Church on Ruby Road. So you've lost nearly 1 million viewers in terms of 1 million fewer people engaging in your program over 7 days than did the previous year. So the overnight is down, the increase to +7 is down, and the +7 overall is down compared to last year. And we've got to make that comparison because Christmas Day is a special beast in terms of television. And
well, it used to be for Doctor Who, but it's not getting what I mean. If you compare this to Tennant and Moffat, even to Capaldi, it's nowhere close. Can I just say very quickly as well, happy birthday for a couple of days ago, Hugh Janus there. We've got lots of January birthdays, but happy birthday to you, my friend. And I still love that picture of Mr. Terry Thomas there. Fantastic.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, you put up all the Christmas Day episodes. You know, Voyage of the Damned was peak, really, and we can see how we've, you know, dropped since then. And you know, that earlier graphic of all our Christmas Day episodes. So yeah, we're not at that level.
We've got a super chat here from Lex. Hello, Lex. How are you? Friday was giving me flashbacks to the Doctor Who episode, The Bells of St. John's. The Wi-Fi, when I had no Wi-Fi till Friday night. Yeah, I hope that's all getting sorted. Lex is joining me for a chit-chat at some point very soon, so I hope that's all sorted, Lex. But no, thank you for your super chat there. Nice to see you. And hope all is well with you. We've got lots of comments from you here, everybody. So thank you so much as well. Whatever you make of the overnights for Doctor Who, for all the additions of the +7, etc., they are never as high as the overnights. I mean, this is one of these things. I mean, I've said it before. I don't like the way that the BARB system runs now. I don't think it's efficient at all. And Bedweir, what you're doing is you're proving this, because they can be tampered with, and they shouldn't be. The overnights back in the day, and I think are the ones that should still be looked at, is because that's how many bums on seats you get on the night. And I think that's the most important figure. I don't understand, and I don't like all this, oh, how many people has it got on the iPlayer? And I think it's simply because they reckon, oh, people go back and watch certain things over a year.
Yeah.
We might get more views to that.
But even with that system, you cannot deny that figures are down drastically over the past 2, 3, 4 years, wherever it's gone down ever since Jodie. It really has.
It has, yeah.
In terms of raw numbers, we've talked about this before. The only things now really that get big, other can't miss bits of television are largely sporting events.
Yeah.
Because live sport, this is why Netflix is kind of verging into doing live events and live sport and that sort of branch.
I've heard that. Yeah, they're looking into it, aren't they?
That's the kind of thing that gets people to watch on the day. And as we saw from this last Christmas, we had Wallace and Gromit and Gavin and Stacey, significant numbers of people felt they had to watch it live. And if they didn't watch it live, we've now seen that they made sure they did watch it within a week, in that period between Christmas and New Year. So it is possible for programs to get big numbers. It doesn't seem that Doctor Who is one of those programs anymore.
Well, I think you said in the last show, Bed, where all the shows are old. They're all 20 years, 40 years. Well, EastEnders is 40 years old, isn't it? Everything's really old. Call the Midwife is 10, 15 years old, isn't it? I think.
It must be.
There was, because we mentioned last week, there was a bit of a malaise about, the BBC is just putting out the same shows they always put out on Christmas Day with two exceptions. And those two exceptions are the ones that have done really well. And all the stuff that's usually on a Christmas Day, Strictly, EastEnders at least once, twice, Doctor Who's consistently on, those sorts of things did okay.
Yeah.
But the ones that stood out were the ones that people were, really keen on seeing. And that's what television needs, is those big shows that people feel they have to watch live. And if for some reason they can't watch it live, they'll go back and, they will catch up on it. And those shows that we see regularly, they're not having that effect. And this malaise with Doctor Who is because it's been around for now 20 years in its current form with, modern audiences. So, apart from a few breaks here and there, people, the general audience are like, oh, Doctor Who, yeah, I've seen that.
It's definitely.
And the thing is, they have to make the Christmas one not a light and fluffy episode. It has to be grab your attention episode as you have the audience, don't you? You have to have a real punching of a plot and a story, surely, yeah.
Well, let's just all remember, everybody, that there is no Christmas special in the can as of broadcast for 2025. Have we just witnessed the last Doctor Who Christmas episode? I think we possibly have. Just Jordan's in the chat with us saying, can I just say, as a disabled female, this DEI stuff is crap. My disability may have helped me get my interview, but I got the job because I'm bloody qualified. You should always pick based on skill, etc. That's
the way it should be.
Yeah, the best person for the job. It doesn't matter what frame they're in. It has to be the best person for the job. We're going to be talking about this a little bit later on in the show here, Just Jordan. So it'd be great to get your feedback on what we're saying on that one as well. Lots of you in the chat with us again tonight. So thank you so much, as ever, with all your views and opinions. It's great to see you. That one, I don't know if you saw that one before from Lex Bedweer. That one was for you.
Thank you, Lex.
Domgo was also saying to us, the BBC simply can no longer justify putting Doctor Who on in the Christmas Day schedule. Luckily, it's finished now anyway. Absolutely. And Paul Stenterford saying, so current Doctor Who is a study of diminishing returns. I bet that Disney is paying close attention. I don't think they are, personally, Paul, because I think they've gone already.
I really they've kept the receipts.
They've spent the money.
Yeah, I honestly believe, I've just got this feeling that they've gone. That's it, done. And we've got the series that's in the can for Doctor Who. And then we've got this Sea Devil thing, which RTD is saying may not be screened as quickly as we think. I don't know if you've seen that, everybody, but he has sort of, when he's been chatting about it, said it won't be on as early as you think it will. So could they possibly be hanging on to 2026 to show that? Very interesting if they do. We've got this from Lex. Thank you again for this one, Lex. I'm a believer of overnight ratings. I'm passionate about them. Yeah. I think it's so important that you see how many people come to your show on the night to watch it, just as they did for Wallace and Gromit and Gavin and Stacey. That was a big draw. And SG is saying to us, WWE Raw was on Netflix this week, but it seems to have been a celebrity fest 40 minutes before the first match. The thing about that is, it's not my thing, SG, but I'm obviously aware of it. But the thing about that is, it would have been a tester to see how many people watch the thing. And if it's like a pilot, and if it works that way, they are sniffing around, as Bedwyr said, sport. Netflix wants to
it was the #1 chart for a couple of days in the UK and the US. So it did do fairly well. Whether that will continue after, episodes 2, 3, 4, etc., we'll wait and see. But that's an interesting experiment because, I mean, it's not sport; it's entertainment, but it is live. So, there's that element to it. That will be an interesting experiment.
If they're diversifying, good luck to them.
Yeah,
it's kind of what Sky did, didn't they? Sky did that with the football, didn't they? They stole it from ITV and BBC and put it on Sky, and they're doing the same thing, really. So
but I mean, in terms of our digital channels, the most watched thing was Super Sunday Football, which had 1.79 million viewers. And then the darts final, I think it was the second most watched. So on your digital channels, so that includes BBC4. For those that have asked, War Games, I don't have those numbers because they haven't put out that week. But it's the sports channels that do better than BBC4, certainly better than BBC3 numbers and ITV3, all that sort of stuff. So, your top 10 is largely live sport for your digital channels. But when I think for those of a certain age, the Royal Institution Christmas lectures, they're currently on BBC4 and they got about 100,000.
If Netflix is diversifying, though, good luck to them. That's what I say, because it shows that the BBC will have to up their game again and have to adapt. And they can't. They're so far behind the times as it is. They're desperately trying to struggle with a new business model that will get them through the rest of the 21st century, and they haven't found one. And they've killed themselves off now by just completely bending the knee to extreme left-wing ideology. It's shocking what we've got there. We've got Stephen Braddock here saying the rumor is they're holding the Sea Devil thing back to 26 because there's no third season. It wouldn't surprise me, Stephen. And Rosie Mead, nice to see you. Reminds me of where Miss Marple used to live. But nice to see you, St. Rosie Mead. I agree that the immediate future is unknown. The silence over another season is deafening, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the problem is there's only a handful of people that care. Really, really is. Thank you to Pooh's Lost Eyes for this super chat. Thank you very much. I'm not sure what it means, though. I want this iteration to fail because Doctor Who is dead. And you look like him. Have I missed something? I don't know.
There's a conversation going on with two other people, isn't there?
Oh, I see. Oh, okay. Okay. So that's coming. Well, thank you for that, Pooh's Lost Eyes. Nice to see you. Thank you very much for that, Brad. I've missed that.
I think what you're saying with sport, sorry, Jason. I think what you're saying with sport and Bedwyr is right, and it's not just the digital channels as well. I read something just the other week that ITV are back in the live football game as well. So ITV are going to be showing some live football matches this season. I know there's certainly some from the Championship. I don't know about the Premier League, and I don't know how they've done it, but it's something, or it might be from next season. I don't know. But
it'll be money, Ian. It'll be money.
Oh yeah, totally. But the fact that ITV now are prepared to really pitch in to get live football back, that has been pretty much unless it's been a cup game, it's been pretty much Sky TV and BT for a while, for a long time, a lot of years, and it just shows that it's not even. This is a mainstream channel, isn't it? And the fact that they've broken back into it, they must have put down a lot of money for that. Because you're right, you've got people by the curlies with a sports game, haven't you? Because they don't want to risk finding out the score if they watch it later. Will somebody tell them, that kind of thing?
That makes a difference.
It'll be interesting for Netflix to copy the live stream formatting that has been successful on this platform, for example, and that's effectively what they're going to be doing. So I would imagine it'd be Netflix Sport and an extra subscription. Even if you wanted that one off. And I think that's a great idea. It's interesting to see where they're going. Moriarty is saying to us here that Netflix is rebooting Primeval to take on Disney Who. By the time we get Primeval done, Doctor Who will not be on the air, I can assure you.
Yeah.
Well,
You
we
could
have
read
another
Flanders and take Doctor Who, couldn't you? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
It doesn't need a big hitter to take on Gatwa's Doctor Who.
Yeah.
No.
I think Bullseye did it, didn't it? So,
Bullseye did do it, yeah. We've got a couple more graphics still to come from Bidwea, so stay with us. We've got Anthony Green. Have you heard the rumour that Joy to the World was an unused, adapted Matt Smith script Moffat had tucked away? It does make sense. Shooty wasn't quite as annoyingly shooty as usual. Not that I'm saying it was good. I haven't heard that rumour, but it wouldn't surprise me. I seem to think he came up with the idea of... He said he came up with the idea fresh, didn't he? We reported last year, I think.
yeah.
I don't know. But
Allegedly lies, apparently. So
allegedly, yeah, it's all alleged there. And Rose is with us. Hiya, Rose Kirby. I watched Doctor Who twice, the first time on Christmas Day, but missed the last 10 minutes. Did you fall asleep? And the second time on Boxing Day at 2 a.m. Two things I hated, the COVID reference and the star, not joyful at all. Only the two things you didn't like. Well, you did well. You honestly did well. I could oof. Raymond saying to us, the BBC should cut back to two main channels, BBC 1 and 2. They would save an absolute fortune, leaving millions to make better programmes. I do miss the great sitcoms they once made before DEI. The problem is, of course, that they farm everything out now as well. When once upon a time in our days, of course, it was all made in the Donut or even the BBC Theatre. You know, it was all made there with the odd regional bit. Now it's all over the country, all over the world by people that farm things back in. The BBC... Oh, I think it's an awful mess the way the industry runs today. I really do. Paul Thomas Ashworth saying to us, in doubt, the BBC will axe Doctor Who. They'll just keep it quiet or say no decision has been made. I can't see them actually saying we're axing this, Paul. No. I really can't. I do think they're going to say it's going to use the famous word hiatus. They will come up with something flowery to say we're giving it a rest, basically, and that rest can be however long, because they know there will be a backlash, but not as strong as it was in '85, I'm sure. Because I
always think hiatus sounds like a hernia, don't you think?
It will be interesting whether they actually put something out or whether they leave it just spiral away without...
I don't know if they'll put something out. I think they will, and I think the press will get wind of it, because as we know, the press look at shows like this and they go through the fan boards and stuff like that. So the fan base will be told. We will be told. The fan base will be told there's not going to be any series forthcoming in whatever. We're just going to realign. We're going to rethink here. We're going to try and match it for a digital age, whatever nonsense they come up with. Which
we'll have Shooty spinning at the end of the episode going, "You can't do this to me, honey," like that.
And they can
spraying out.
Yeah, I think it will be like that. Yeah. But I think there will be something. But the reaction will be, no one will care. Nobody in Britain will care, apart from the minority that are watching this thing. As Bedwee is pointing out, it is a minority. It's falling all the time. And the ones that are watching it now are die hards who are going to have the most terrible time when this thing comes off the air. It's going to be like, as I've said it before, it's going to be like Wham, the Beatles, Take That, ABBA. It's going to be all this hysterical nonsense for 10 minutes.
I mean, it is not in production now.
No, it's not.
You know, The War Between the Land and the Sea, that has wrapped. It is not in production. So unless we hear that they are going back into production, Doctor Who's not being made.
That's it. That's absolutely it.
That's the situation. And whether they'll actually come out and say, no, we're not going to go back into production, I'm not sure. I think they'll just leave it and just... But I think it's just Jordan who said in the chat, you know, RTD can't help himself from putting comment on his Instagram, can he? So maybe they will say something at some point, but who knows?
I'm looking forward
I don't think they will.
And if they're going to do a Christmas special, they have to be filming by March, don't they, really, to get one out for Christmas, don't they?
Yeah, we've got Plymouth Who here. Hello, Plymouth Who. Nice to see you. I think Who is in its The Walking Dead phase. RTD does not feel he needs to earn an audience. He expects an audience to turn up regardless of quality. Do you know, I'm going to agree with that. Both him and Moffat are always talking about that in this cocky, arrogant way that they have of just assuming that the audience they had back in the day is there. That was 20 years ago. It's not there anymore. It is a tired show. You haven't done anything to invigorate it, gentlemen. RTD in particular. You had the chance to bring back the entire fandom to support you and get excited about it, and you decided not to. You decided to keep with your minority audience, you know, it hasn't done well for you, has it? Because we're not going as a society the way you seem to think that we should go as a society. And Doctor Who, well, It's being left behind. Rose has a question for you here, Badria. I wonder, did I boost the overnight figures on Christmas Day and Boxing Day?
Yes.
It depends how many platforms you used, but yeah, I'm sure the BBC count. If you're watching on BBC Three, then that is the 6.2 number. So the BBC are grateful to you for that.
Well, there you go. There you have it. Now, we had that diagram there. This is what, as I say, this is one of our favorites, one of my favorites as well. This particular one here, which Bedouin very kindly went through and put together. And let's wrap all that up then for this particular one.
Yeah. So again, blue is the overnight, and overnight to +7 is in green. And we can see that quite clearly that 1.8 million increase is only 30% of what the overnight was. So again, to reiterate this point that we've pushed many times on this channel, the watching on iPlayer is a bit of a myth. The overnight is still massively important to your overall numbers, your +7 and your +28 days. And in the vast majority of cases, apart from Boom, as we've said earlier, it is the overnight which is the bulk of your total viewership. So this is why we put so much stock in the overnight number. And when it is down and dropping, as it did throughout the Shooty Gatwa series, we do take fright at it and we do highlight it, because it proves that there isn't an audience and people are slowly moving away from watching Doctor Who on a regular basis.
And Tony Crosby could be highlighting why there's too much box ticking and sexuality. Sorry, grandkids, you're not watching that. Yeah. Totally agree. We've got, as I said before on the show, we've got many parents watching us here at Who's Views and subscribing to the channel. Thank you for being with us. And they've got in touch with us to say they wouldn't allow their kids to watch it unless they've watched Doctor Who first. And that breaks my heart, because Doctor Who was the show that a load of us, myself included, were put down in front of on a Saturday night by our parents and by our family, with them knowing they're not going to get anything that they shouldn't get in this show. Like the F word, which seems to be on the BBC quite liberally these days. It was just good, solid entertainment, and you were going to get a little scare. And the adults loved the fact you were going to get that little scare as well. But they knew that Doctor Who was safe. And to have people now saying, no, your grandkids aren't going to watch it, or your kids aren't going to watch it unless you've watched it first, that's not Doctor Who. Shame.
Yeah. So if any of our Who viewers are getting into arguments about, the overnights don't matter, point them in the direction of this channel and look at the numbers, and you can see that growth from overnights is dwarfed. It's just so much smaller. And it is, again, Christmas is kind of a special exception, really, because you've got more people sat at home because things aren't open and all that sort of stuff, at least in the UK. But yeah, 30%, for your iPlayer number, if you want to call it that. So your catch-up number, it's really not agreeing with the narrative that's being pushed by everyone's watching on iPlayer. And bear in mind, we didn't have the pre-transmission option because it wasn't on iPlayer from midnight. Like other episodes of the series.
I think they'll return to that. We will come into this when, yes, we are going to be reviewing season 2 of this nonsense when it's broadcast from May. We will come to that because I reckon they will go back to that, dropping it on the iPlayer, because I think Disney will want that. Now, if that doesn't happen, let's speculate about that, shall we? About what that means for Disney, because that would say an awful lot to me as well. Not as proud as they were a year ago. Woodhouse122 is saying to us, I think Doctor Who will be done as annual specials like Fools and Horses, as the Beeb will be desperate for the show to survive. Certainly BBC Studios, who are now in control of Doctor Who, will be, because, of course, as we know, it is a money spinner from all of us with the right stuff. I can guarantee you that had these series have been fantastic, the majority of us would have supported it and watched it and then gone and buy the box sets and the DVD, the steel books and all this sort of stuff. Yeah. I guarantee you, because that's what we did with the reboot came back 20 years ago, but a lot of us haven't. And yet, as I've said before, the limited edition collector's editions, as you guys know, because you come and join us on these shows, are hugely successful for the BBC. So yes, they will be. And it wouldn't surprise me, but it would have to be a reset. If they're just going to bring RTD back with Shooty Gatwa for 2 or 3 specials a year, they're going to flop. They need an absolute 100% massive kick up the arse reboot with a brand new production team, brand new cast, brand new sets, brand new ideas. And they need to go back and investigate and research what Doctor Who is to make it work again in this country, as well as others. And they need to bring that British element back, because I don't think that British element was there in these current versions. I think it's gone.
Yeah.
You know, and I know they would argue, but I really do think it's gone. Leah's telling us, my daughter won't allow me to watch it. Well, obviously worried about you. We've got here, what a family show it used to be, says John Mason.
Yeah.
And Frank Spencer also saying, I'm not having my grandson watching something where there is a reference to being snowmanned. It's not going to happen. I can't
You
believe
can't let Jessica watch it either, can you? So
no, but I can't
Frank
believe
Spencer's daughter, if you don't know what I'm talking about this. So
well, I can't believe that it was Doctor Who that introduced me to that term.
Yeah, it's sad, isn't it, really?
It's shocking and disgusting that Doctor Who introduced me to that. I am sick about that.
And you just know RTD would have been sat in the background sniggering away.
Oh, he would have done.
Yeah.
So pleased
how progressive he was and everything else.
And
really
how down with the kids he is.
Yeah.
And yet, if the kids know what that's all about, where are the parents, quite frankly? I want to know where the parents are. We've got Domgo saying, I wouldn't let any child watch this perverted rubbish. And Komodo is saying, parents could trust the makers back then. It's a shame when the Bad Wolf degenerates have done to this brand. I think they've all trusted certain people too much, really. And they've all gone with him.
That went all the way back to Love and Monsters, where you had, you know, the Paling Slab and Elton. Like, it's just just
too much.
Yeah. There's no need for
their sense of humor isn't it doesn't sit with me. And it just thought this sort of thing, they seem to think like they did with the Virgin New Adventures, actually. Oh, if we bring an element of sexual innuendo into this, it's grown up. Really? You think
it was
so?
bad enough in Torchwood, wasn't it? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the New Adventures went quite OTT at times. You know, detailed descriptions of a prostitute character having mints to take the taste away from their mouth and things like that. And it was just like, is that necessary, really? I think that was Transit, the book. Right. Was that necessary? I don't think it was at all. Again, you don't need that to make good Doctor Who.
But we have to remember the people that are producing Doctor Who now and writing Doctor Who now are from that New Adventures lot where they all were walking around the pub thinking they were clever. Absolute nonsense. We've got here telling us that the locker room pick Sniggers. Exactly. Yeah. Sniggers. Yeah, he's right. And Plymouth Who saying it's sad to think the very last piece of broadcast TV Who will be a spin-off series in which Russell Tovey shags a she-devil. Sorry, sea-devil. Ugh.
Yeah.
And that could be next year. Oh my goodness, that's a bit worrying. Lex has given us another super chat here. Great picture of Tom there as well. Could Sea Devil series might not be shown if something goes wrong in 2026 with Disney Who being so boring and yawning. Hopefully, being axed.
Hopefully.
The signs are there, so let's see how we get on through this year. Don't forget, as soon as we know anything, we'll be here on Headlines, ready to talk about it all. That's going to be a great show, whichever way it goes. And we've got Enspiel saying Tom Baker did get it wrong. The role is not actor-proof. Jodie and Ncuti are proof of that. 100%. 100%.
I don't think Ncuti is an actor anyway, to be honest. So
Yeah. They really have to. They really have to get their ideas together, BBC Studios here. You've got the wrong people producing and putting out this wonderful show. Take it away from them, have a rethink, and then go and find somebody who knows Doctor Who and get rid of the whole showrunner thing and get a producer, an exec producer and a script editor and let them write good science fiction. It's not rocket science, is it? Really? Come on. Gordon Webster is saying to us, hello, Gordon, could we not have the Capaldi doctor wake up from a pre-regeneration nightmare? The amount of times people have come onto the show and said that to us. I would just start again with the Doctor, like they did with Rose in a sense, but with the Doctor, and just go and don't give him a bloody number, so that fans who genuinely like the Whittaker and Ncuti era are not going to get upset. But for the rest of us, we can write it off if we want to and start it from McCoy, McGann, Capaldi, wherever you want to. That's how I would try and fit it in. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, that's a good idea. Just stop counting. Just stop counting them.
Yeah. You've got to, because it's
getting stupid now, isn't it, to be honest?
Yeah, 15 of them, is there?
Yeah.
No, 77,462 according to Kindle.
And then you got to count the War Doctor and the Fugitive Doctor as well, and all that nonsense.
I don't.
And where's Peter Cushing when you want him? You know what I mean?
He's having a lovely time in Marbella. Legion of James.
Yeah.
He's saying to us, update on my nephew's progress through proper Doctor Who. He started at the 3rd Doctor and is currently on Attack of the Cybermen. My God, he's got through them all, hasn't he? Wow. He absolutely loves it so far. His favourite Doctor is Peter, but it changes every regeneration, as it should do, because that's what we all did.
Yeah, we're all fickle. That's what happens. Yeah.
That's what happened. But we did, didn't we? We were like, oh, God, Pertwee's going. Ark in space. Baker's on. Yeah.
Who's Pertwee? Yeah.
Who was the white-haired guy? Yeah, but that's how it should be, wasn't it? Because that's what Doctor Who was all about. And for some reason, it was easier, Legion of James, in those days as well, because you went from one Doctor to the other quite easily. And I think that's because the BBC had it on every year as well. And it was continuous and it was the same pattern. You know, there's just something beautiful about that original 26-year run that this 20-year run version hasn't been able to capture when it comes to the continuation of the Doctors. I think the nearest they got to it was the first couple, Eccleston, Tennant to Smith, and then it's gone all weird.
Yeah.
I can't quite put my finger on it, so I can't explain myself properly, but sorry about that, everybody.
It's a lot to do with scheduling, I think. That's part of the problem.
That's probably the word I'm looking for.
It did go a bit silly, the scheduling, didn't it? But I mean, at the same time, I don't think, in retrospect, Moffat was probably the best person to take it forward after Russell T Davies. I think he was. Davies was right to go when he went. But Moffat, if you look back at Curse of Fatal Death, you can see a lot of the humour in that was very toilet humour, and you could have probably got a reasonably good inference of where he was going to take Doctor Who, and ultimately he did, didn't he? And
well, I think he's used some of the lines from that in his version of Doctor Who, hasn't he? I think so.
Yeah. We've got Jason Parker saying to us here, the only backlash will be some odd mess, like when they asked Doctor Who Confidential. Was there a backlash to that? I was so disillusioned. I don't know.
I was so relieved they stopped making it.
With that bizarre Doctor in Distress style video, most fans will be quite relieved when it's put out of our misery. But then they'll come back now and they can record a single called Doctor in Distress. You know, that's going to be a huge hit. It'll be
Volume 2.
Absolutely. Huge hit, that one.
12
We've got Paul Thomas Ashworth. Thank you for your super chat here saying sack RTD, sack Julie Gardner, sack Phil Collins, and sack Jane Tranter. I've heard that somewhere before, mate. Where have I heard that? But thank you very much. I wonder if he's actually looking at this now going, I doubt it, because he's better things to do. He's doing a new show for streaming, isn't he, really? I'm not going to be talking about that yet. Legion of James back with us. That's definitely a point. Sarah Jane Adventures was aimed at a younger audience, but managed to produce a great sci-fi show that didn't talk down to its audience. We have to start reviewing, guys. Legion of James just reminded me, we have it on the plan to start reviewing the Sarah Jane Adventures. If you would like to see us reviewing the Sarah Jane Adventures, please get in touch. Either put a comment down saying yes, put it in the chat now saying yes. Give me an email.
I would love to see that, JT. Can I say yes, no, please?
You can. I know you do. We've been meaning to do it for ages. I've even got the first episode graphic ready, so we've got to get it done. We've got to get into sooner than later. We've got to get that in there. Sarah Jane Adventures.
Are you going to make me dig out all the costumes I've got and have them in the back?
There was that on the plan, wasn't there?
Can you wear some of them? That'd be quite good as well.
You know what,
no, the kids were tidy.
Yeah, but that will be 2 years now when I asked you about that. Remember?
Have you been going that long? Good grief.
Yeah, that's the beauty of this show. We just, all these ideas. And, you know, when people say to me, you know, or when they say, come onto the show and they say to us, oh, what are you going to do if Doctor Who comes off? There's lots to talk about. Lots to talk about. We managed it for 15 years. I think we can manage it again with the because it won't be that long if they take it off now. Because the BBC, as you were saying, guys, they'll be wanting it back, but it will be completely different. It has to be completely different, and it has to be. I'm also concerned about the cost of this because they do have a point this time around. Oh, it's really expensive. We're going to need a business partner. You will, but you've got to get the right one. You know, got to get the right one. Pooh's Lost Eyes, thank you again for your latest super chat. I appreciate the Capaldi waking up from a bad dream idea, but that doesn't get rid of brainless crap like tell a pig about your moral high ground. All that has to go, doesn't it? Yeah. It all has to go. All that nonsense, all the talking down to the audience, treating the audience, which the BBC does, as we know, as poo, basically. It has to go. It just has to be solid science fiction. RD animation films and model builds. I've been watching again John Pertwee's second story, The Silurians. What an excellent grown-up way to tell a good story to a varied audience, and it's great. Doctor Who. Welcome to Who's Views RD Animation. Films and Model Builds. Lovely to see you. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Lovely, lovely to see you. We looked at Doctor Who and the Silurians on reviews last year as part of our Silurian and Sea Devil series. So you can go and have a look at that. We've got one more to come in that series, everybody, which is our review of the Sea Devils, which I was holding back, preempting this Sea Devil stuff that's on the way. Now, if they're going to hold it over to 2026, I'm not waiting that long. We will be doing it at some point this year. How dare they ruin my plans? Who do they think they are? It's outrageous, isn't it? Lots of you in the chat, so thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, Glenn's there. Hello, Glenn. Was there any Jodie or Shooty Doctor Who story that you have enjoyed? If you had to choose one, which story would it be? I'm going to open that up to you guys because I'm going to say to Glenn, no and no. So I'm going to put that out to the others now to answer.
And for Jodie, I didn't mind the Dalek-y ones were okay, but that's about it. But
how many did she do with the Daleks?
3.
3?
4, so 4 if you count our last one. Yeah.
4. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
They were in our last one. I thought that was all the Doctors in that one.
And the Daleks and the Cybermen and the Master and everything but the kitchen sink, I believe.
Oh, because it was 60 years of the BBC it was celebrating, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, 100 years, sorry. Yeah, so, yeah, okay, fair enough. All right, that's Paul's answer.
I found it all nauseating. I could tolerate those variant Daleks just are offensive, but
I think it was in the context of the episode, but they're not a great design, I have to say that.
Yeah, I think the scene where it took on the soldiers and the tank was quite well directed.
Yeah.
But that is one scene in 3 series, the rest of which was just the contents of a lavatory bowl that needed flushing. And
the bit on the bridge in Bristol was quite good. The thing with the 2 factions coming out, that was quite nice.
Yeah. But by that point, it was very much still running with that guy that was from the Spider episode with the Trump allegory, wasn't it? And it was it was just too political for me. And
that's the one where I had the major backlash from here and the American fans. That's when they tuned out in their millions, didn't they? That one.
Yeah. And nothing of Gat was, if anything, the 73 yards because he wasn't in it, and Millie Gibson did a decent shout, to be quite honest. But again, not really. No.
Yeah, I didn't mind the first Christmas one, but after that, I just.
Okay, and what about you then, Bedouin? You watched the Jodie Whittaker era, so for your sins,
did. Yeah, I quite liked. I thought Demons of the Punjab was decent. Because it was a period of history that I don't really know anything about, and so that was interesting. The Power of the Doctor, her regeneration story, was good for all the other people that were in it.
Yeah.
Or getting a paycheck, you mean?
Yeah.
Paul McGann, yay.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with you guys about particularly sort of that first Dalek story where it really established the creature within the Dalek being the dangerous element.
Yeah.
And, then it built its own machine and it's ramshackled and it looks, like a Dalek, but,
the mutant build its own casing.
Yeah.
With the help of a human
a girl and she did it.
Yeah.
I could just see this little green blob going. Like
Gremlins kind of thing. Yeah, that's what I like.
Yeah.
Have you got a drill, love? That sounds poo.
It was a bit planned for the Daleks, really, wasn't it? It was sat on this girl's back, only it wasn't invisible. It was sat on this girl's back, and it was controlling her, so she built it.
Oh, like a great big spider. I see.
Yeah, but that for me that was interesting because it was something slightly different with the Daleks that we hadn't seen before because we'd had lots of Dalek stories at that point. So
but not all
those
of them
are the only ones I can think of, really.
Yeah.
Well, there you go, Glenn. Hope that answers your question there. So thank you very much for that question. Lovely. In answer to my query about the Sarah Jane Adventures, a lot of you are getting back with an affirmative, basically, to us reviewing. We've already done Canine and Company, John, but it wouldn't hurt to do it again as part of the Sarah Jane Adventures because a lot of you are up for this. So guess what? We're coming your way very soon. We will sort this. We will start this and we will put it ready. Noodle Arms is saying, I've got my Sonic lipstick at the ready. I don't really wish to know. Really?
Put it away, please.
So there we go. Look at this. Yes, the Sarah Jane reviews. I'll have to dig out the box set. Just Jordan, I love the Sarah Jane Adventures. Yes, please review. Can Bedweir do ratings comparisons for it too? Bet it wipes the floor with this nonsense. That's under a different system, though, isn't it? Under a different system for those. So it probably still would. But there is a lot of this saying yes. So stay tuned. Make sure you are absolutely here with us on Who's Views. You've subscribed. We've been planning it for 2 years. I have to get my bum into gear, don't I? It's on the way. We will start reviewing the Sarah Jane Adventures. You heard it here first on tonight's edition of Headlines. It is Sunday, the 12th of January, 2025. You had it all there, everybody. Thank you very much. Who's Lost Eyes? What are you saying to us? Just got a notification from the BBC YouTube channel. Do you believe in DNA? That's the kind of audience they're talking down to. You are kidding me. What? Oh, God, don't tell me this is all some sort of TQ cult nonsense, Pooh's Lost Eyes, as well, to try and justify some sort of outdated ideology. Please. Anyway. Oh, I don't believe that. Right, so I think we're up to date now with you. That was the last graphic, wasn't it?
That was it.
There it is.
Yeah.
There's the last one there. So a huge thank you so much for doing that again. Really, really appreciate that, as ever. Thank you for all your hard work on that. I'm going to ask you kindly now, with 245 people watching us live, are you going to come back for the second series for Shooty Gatwa and do it all again?
Yes, because I won't be watching it. I'll watch the numbers instead.
They're far more interesting.
It will be.
I have to say.
He's
and to listen to as well. Thank you very much.
Exclusive to Who's Views. You've got Bedweir coming back, and I'm sure we will be seeing him on the Sarah Jane Adventures, the Blake 7 reviews, and some other stuff.
Try and stop me.
Well.
Yeah.
Bedweir, it's an absolute joy. Thank you so much for that. Everybody's saying thank you for you as well in the chat. We will be seeing you very shortly, and I'll speak to you soon, mate. All right. Thank you so much for that.
Enjoy your dinner.
Evening.
Cheers, mate. Take care.
Thank you, Bedweir. Yes, so thank you to Bedweir for that. You are watching Who's Views, and at this particular point, he's going to plug something that's coming up, because this Wednesday live on the channel at 8 o'clock, we've got this coming up for you. It's the start of our Season 7 at 55 celebrations, and this week, we are going to be looking at the overview of Season 7. We're going to be celebrating those 4 superb stories, which not only start Season 7, but of course, 55 years now of the start of the Pertwee era. 5 mammoth years of British television, all started 55 years ago. This
GT, you can just see it's a lovely graphic there. All the monsters together, fabulous. I really like that. It's really nice.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's a theme. If you go and look at our season overviews, you'll see that we've done a couple of others already. But it's a theme I put together.
It's a lovely image. It's nice.
I'm glad you like that one.
I
But
do.
Yeah. That's nice, isn't it? Everybody that you said that. But that's coming up for you.
The checks in the post, GT. I'm just saying that.
You can have a pencil and that's it.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Cheers.
Let's just come down a little bit as well to just talk to this person here as well. Seltsam Mithut. Why the hell are you still watching the show if you hate it so much? For a laugh, basically.
Research.
Yeah. To bring it down. We
can talk about something and we've seen it, so we know what we're talking about, rather than just making it up.
It's like, I think it's like
thanks for watching though, Seltsam.
Football, right? Because I've mentioned it before. I like football. I support for my sins Leeds United. And,
well, someone has to, don't they?
One of the most universally hated teams, all going back to the 60s and 70s with Don Revie, and we were known as Dirty Leeds. And to be quite honest, that's a badge we all wear with pride because people still say it today. But, it's like, I love Leeds United with a passion, and I'll watch their matches. And years back when I was able to afford it before things like kids and houses and things like that, I had season tickets. Now I had a season ticket to Leeds for about 15 years. I saw loads of European games, great times, fantastic. Won bugger all, but great times. And, but I was watching Leeds at the weekend in a bit of a local Yorkshire thing, because it was the FA Cup third round and they were playing Harrogate Town, and Leeds won 1-0. Should have been way more than that. Had loads and loads of shots, hit the post, hit the bar, missed, went too high, and all this kind of thing. And whilst I love Leeds United, I was ripping them to pieces like that about that. I was getting angry, I was getting frustrated, I was slating them and all sorts, but I love them to pieces. And there are times when they'll have great games and it's fantastic, and there are times when they have shit games and they get the grief that they deserve. And that is part of being a fan. And you can do it with football, and you can do it with Doctor Who as well.
You can,
and it's
of course you can. Yeah. And that's the thing, isn't it? We are fans, and our job as a fan is to criticize as well as praise. And you know, Henry Cavill a couple of years ago said it best, didn't he? When an interviewer said, "Oh, you're getting all these toxic fans," and he corrected them, said, "No, they're just fans, and they have a right to their opinion because they support the show." And that's exactly what it's all about. So
he's a nerd as well, isn't he? Though, to be fair.
Oh, huge nerd, buying the rights to everything. Good for you, Henry. But you know, I believe allegedly. But you know, it's a thing here that we on Who's Views as well, that if you are a fan of this thing, you're still very welcome, because we will educate you about proper Doctor Who. But as we said earlier, we're just not seeing the Doctor in these things. The writing is shallow. It's superfluous. It's ridiculous. It's nonsensical. You cannot compare it to proper Doctor Who in any way, shape, or form, or even the early days of the reboot, where what they cared about was proper storytelling. They don't now. It's all about agenda now. Yeah. And as I said, one of the only ways we're going to correct this right now is, and millions of us around the world think this, the only way we're going to correct Doctor Who and get it back on course now is that it needs time off. It needs time off, and it needs to be taken away from the hands of the people that have got it now. Sad to say, but it does. Yeah. Another super chat from Lex. Thank you, Lex, for that one. Look closer at the profile pic. It's a mix of Tom and me.
Oh,
yes. You can just see it now, actually. I'm on a fairly small screen here, but thank you. Lots of thank you for that, Lex. We've got lots of thanks from Bedweir with that. Isn't he great at doing all that as well? So again, thank you to Bedweir for doing all that.
Can we get him a badge? Can we say that now? I've said that many times. I think I'm a badge for
mathematical
excellence.
Yeah. Frank Spencer.
At least the pajamas, anyway, if I can do that for him. Yeah.
Frank Spencer is saying, I'm a Leeds fan. And Paul Rose is saying, Ian, no one is perfect.
Very, very true. Very true.
So we've got all that there. So thank you. I want to say hello to Adoring Praise, who's joined us as well. Thank you. Not seen you before, so it's nice to see you. And Amaray is back with us to saying Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you as well. Babette Bombshell, for many of us who grew up with Doctor Who, it's like watching a loved one self-destruct, isn't it, though?
Yeah.
It's painful. And that's the thing, isn't it? But do you know what? It's a real case as well that you get a lot of this, that sort of attitude. Just switch it off if you don't like it. Millions have, and we have to stand up for this thing to say this is the reason why millions have switched off, because we don't want the thing to die. We want it to rest. But if you keep pushing it the way it is now, it will eventually come off and never come back. And as fans, we don't want that. We want it to come back with the huge stories, with the excitement, with the passion, with the science fiction, the Daleks, the Cybermen, things that are not problematic. Davros, the way he was, the thrills, the spills. But if fans don't speak up for this and it doesn't get notice, it's never, ever, ever going to be corrected. If we just sit there and get whipped with nonsense and just bend the knee to it, we can't. That's not what a fan's job is. A fan's job is to criticize as well as adore. And right now, there's nothing to adore. So we've got that there. Adoring Praise. Hi, JT. Well, hello to you as well. It's nice to see you. So everybody, yes, we're going on to our next story now. It'll be very interesting. Just Jordan, I hope you're with us. Hope your dad's all right as well, by the way, because it concerns this fella. This, of course, is you know who, Stephen Moffat. Yes, the other one. And he's been around this week. I don't know if you've seen this, fellas, but he's been saying this, as reported by Bleeding Cool. Doctor Who doesn't have a secret agenda. Moffat on woke accusations.
Well, it's not secret, is it? Let's be honest.
Well, let's start listing the evidence, shall we? But let's have a look at this, because he says here, Stephen Moffat discusses Doctor Who not getting a season 3 order yet, those woke accusations, and why the Doctor is a classic liberal. Right, let's get on with this then, as we all take that in, because what he says is this. Since its return, Moffat hasn't brought into critics accusations that the show is woke, arguing that the position only tells half a story. Now, when it says since its return, I'm saying in the last couple of years, maybe, okay? I don't know. As he sees it, it's been the role of fiction to inspire us to be better individually and as a society. Moffat says, I think a lot of fiction works that way. How do people learn how to be good except through fiction? That's what heroic fiction is. You can argue that's what religion is. It's a set of constructed myths giving you an ideal to work towards. Moffat shared. Fairy tales, in effect, tell us what life is always like and what you should be doing about it. Imagine in a world without stories, how would you know how to be good? A story without a moral dilemma pretty much doesn't happen. There's a moral fable element to Doctor Who, but I can't think of a show where there isn't. If you're to harvest the show for things that you don't agree with so you can feel pleasurably irate, help yourself. But don't pretend that you've uncovered our secret agenda, because we don't have one, Moffat continued. The entire culture war is like the time war. Jesus. It's a war that absolutely no one notices is going on, and we don't have the budget to show anyway. Literally, no one cares about any of this guff. Literally, nobody. You know, maybe a few fatuous media lovers like me wandering around in our tiny bubble with all the other pinheads give a shit about this. But check the bus queues and restaurants in Britain. Go and listen outside the living rooms. Do you think they're talking about any of this bloody crap? Of course, they're not. Most of them wouldn't know what the word woke meant, except, you know, as a distinction between being asleep and not for goodness sake. Stop it. Nobody cares. The Doctor is a classic liberal in the sense that he thinks he should be in charge and someone should get him tea. So, Mr. Moffat, I wonder if you are eating your words after this horrendous week in the United Kingdom, because you've just been proved totally and utterly wrong. Gentlemen.
He's an idiot.
Yeah.
He's an absolute fatuous idiot.
How can he say there's no agenda and it's not woke? How can he say that, honestly? With a straight face?
I think he's just illustrated completely and utterly where they stand.
Yeah.
Totally and utterly, because it's just, as Stephen Braddock is saying, what a load of verbal diarrhea. And it's shallow, isn't it? Like much of his writing.
It's almost like he's saying again, if you don't like it, bugger off, isn't it? That's kind of what he's saying again.
And that's exactly what he's saying. And that's again what he's saying to not just the fan base here, but the public at large.
Yeah.
I mean, are these people not aware of the changes that are going on in society?
The damage they've done already. Yeah.
The way he words that make it sound like he's still one of the showrunners, you know, where he says we and everything else. I mean, now he's just a casual writer that's brought in ad hoc.
He always did, though, Ian. Do you remember when he was talking about the 2005 we? He always did. And then he got into his era where he said the we. It always was, you know, and he would refer to the Russell T Davies era as we as well. So he was trying to bring it as a sort of united force here. I'm not sure he's done the series any good here at all.
I just think he's an idiot. I mean, he cannot write a minor character at all without making some part of it about sexuality. You know, even the woman on the Orient Express, she was a lesbian. You know, because she bloody well.
Well, not even that. In the first few minutes of Joy to the World, there's a reference to a threesome or something in the first few minutes with the old guy and his wife. Yeah.
That's just vile. Tim Kins is saying to us, people like Stephen want to pretend that wokeness is the same as classical liberalism. It's the very opposite. He wants to pretend nothing has changed. This week, isn't it interesting that before the general election here in the UK, a lot of them were coming out saying, oh, you've got to vote Labour, you've got to vote Labour. Some of them are also going, don't vote Trump, don't vote Trump. Over the last few months, and certainly this week, isn't it strange how they've all gone silent?
Very.
No one's talking about anything right now. They're not tweeting things. Mind you, most of them have gone over to that other thing because they're that way. They want to be in an echo chamber. There's no Instagrams about stuff. They didn't tweet about what's happening with the pensioners, the farmers, China. The big thing that happens is ongoing. That's not going to go away, although they all want it to this week. The whole DEI stuff, which is what we're getting into now. These people, very out of date. And I think this is why I am correct in my assumption that season 2 of Doctor Who, airing this year, is lost already.
They all pinned their colours to one particular left-wing mast. And that has been shown to be deceitful, full of lies, broken promises, just outright untruths, promising anything, saying anything just to get elected. They've all thrown their hat into that particular ring, and now it's being seen to be completely and utterly corrupt and bereft of any kind of conscientiousness whatsoever. They now realize that they're going to get tarred with that brush, and there's nothing they can do about it. That's the hill that they're going to die on. And it'll be wonderful to see. There's nothing, they cannot backpedal from this. They can't reverse out of this one. They're stuck to it. They have,
especially now when everything's recorded, Ian.
As I said before, they're so arrogant to do 2 seasons back to back and not consider any feedback whatsoever. That was really stupid. Really stupid.
Totally. And it's being borne out now, and I can't wait to see this nonsense that's coming up in May, because it'll either prove us right or prove us very wrong. And if it proves us very wrong, we're going to be admitting it here on this show. If we start giving this thing 7 and 10s on scores on the TARDIS doors, then we will have to say, wow, weren't we wrong?
That was good. Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with saying we got it wrong. But I'm not.
I would love to say that, but I'm not expecting me to say that, to be fair.
I'm not expecting to either. I'm really not. William Orlock, 86. I'm always up for a Moffat bashing. He's why I turned off New Who, turning it into Time Traveler's Wife and Salving His Ego. Wasn't it obviously the Time Traveler's Wife? You know, down to a T, that nonsense. I thought someone like River Song thought, I thought, hang on a minute, I've seen this before. Turns out it hasn't. It turns out I tried to read about it before on the Time Traveler's Wife, which, to be quite honest, I thought was pathetic and I couldn't get through. Sorry, I didn't like it. I thought the writing was a bit shallow. Put it down. Couldn't spell traveler correctly on the cover. But there it was. And it's as though he's been inspired by all these other things around him. Oh, that'd be fun in Doctor Who. And I've got a character that will fit that, you know? We've got lots of you saying this. Thanks for that to Paul Thomas Ashworth. We've got Peter Venkman fans saying he literally said what was wrong with the show. Didn't he just throw in that as well? Adoring praise. Wow. Just wow. And Dalek I saying to us, does anyone remember when people actually talked about Doctor Who? They don't now. They are SG word salad. They are basically doing what some of the diehard fans of this will do. Well, they're defending it to the last beat of its hearts.
Yeah.
You know, Moffat's known though for being quite vocal, slagging off the Pertwee and the Tom Baker eras, you know, and being quite pompous and arrogant about it, and yet never, even on his best day, could he write something that even comes close to one of the worst stories from that era. You know, I would rather watch Underworld with its crappy CSO than anything that Moffat's churned out. You know, because you've got it scripted, you've got it written, you've got it acted by Tom Baker. You know, he will never get close to that ever.
Yeah, no, here on that one. Yeah, keep all your comments coming, everybody. I'm trying to keep up with you as we look through this. There's a lot of good comments here from everybody in the chat, so thank you. Hugh Jane is saying to us for a super chat, notice how quiet the usually mouthy virtuous celebs have been since this week. That's what I was saying. Absolutely, yes. And they have been for some time. I think it goes back to the whole thing when they mistreated the pensioners here. You know, yes, it is very odd though, Hugh, isn't it? How they've just suddenly gone sickening. In fact, it doesn't compute for them, so therefore it's not happening. I really think a lot of these people now have their head in the sand. I really, really do. Legion of James saying to us, he is twisting the truth about storytelling to fit the pushing of agenda through their writing. Fact is, the stories being written are not well thought out and they are written around preaching. Yep, Legion of James. And Golden Age Geek RTD literally said he wants to introduce certain values to viewers so they become normalized. Didn't he just, Paul? You saw that on the spin-off thing, didn't you?
Yeah, he was constantly saying that to make it normalized. But I think the trouble is you have to not make such a fuss about it to make it acceptable. That's what the problem is, you know?
Yeah. We've got Mark Milford agreeing with that. RTD admitted he was using the show as a platform. It's all there, recorded. You can get it everywhere. I might not have seen it, but I know about it. Pooh's Lost Eyes. I had Moffat's back for the longest time since I knew the agenda in his run was mandated by the BBC and he dipped out as soon as he could. Now I know the guy's just an ignoramus. Yeah. Craig Dunlop agreeing with you there, saying Moffat is so far up his own arse, he thinks he's found God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that everyone knows what woke means, and we are sick of it, says Steve Hindley. Certainly because there's been so much press over the last 7 years about this word woke. More and more people are waking up to it. More so now in the UK over the last year. I think, as people suddenly realize, what is this? What is going on? Because it has had an impact on their lives. And suddenly they start seeing it on television and stuff like that. And as Brad Weir's just proven beautifully, the Doctor Who ratings have gone down. That's not a coincidence, is it? That's people waking up.
It's a response to that. Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
totally. Just Jordan saying, isn't he missing the point? Previous Doctor Who may well or did sometimes have moral dilemmas, etc., but it wasn't shoved down our throat. It was cleverly written. Male presenting Time Lord. He's an alien.
Yeah.
And he's saying there's no agenda.
Yeah.
Is he watching the thing?
It's a shame you still weren't a woman, because she would have understood.
Yeah, that's what they said, wasn't it?
Yeah.
JT, they've drunk all the Kool-Aid and now they believe their own delusions. It's sad, really, says Paul Rose. I think it's not just sad. I think it's sickening, to be honest, Paul. I really do. You know, because what he was saying there on this interview, I mean, it's just also on this bit here, as he sees it, it's been the role of fiction to inspire us to be better individually and as a society. And he goes on to talk about that. But I'm thinking about, hang on a minute, we've got the inmates telling the rest of society how to act. Yeah. We've seen RTD and Collinson and all these people involved, their casting director, you know, all these people. Oh, we interviewed a non-binary. No, you didn't. So the pandering, as show business and entertainment do, to these delusions, and then they're bringing it into the show, into their scripts, and expecting us to go along with it because they tell us it's right. That sounds very much like enforcing your opinion on others, which can lead to dictatorship, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But that's what people like RTD are, isn't it? I mean, just, you know, cast our minds back to what he was saying. Nobody dare question me. That is a dictator. Pure and simple. Yeah. That's what he is. That's the mindset. Yeah.
Komodo is saying here, we are being silenced. We were being silenced to enable lefty liberal social engineering. It's a shame, really, because, you know, I would say my home, everybody, is on the left. But I find myself more centre-left and conservative with a small c now, because they've gone too far and they've brought in too many ideological threats to things. And then they're banging on, as we know here on Headlines, RTD is always banging on about, oh, if you're not in the TQ community, the LGBTQ community, they're coming for you next. No, they're already here coming for us next, and you're part of it because you're supporting a homophobic rhetoric. It's too much for me. And I think people are now actually getting more and more aware because of things that are happening and stories that are coming out in our country and others, but mainly in the UK, where certain people are being arrested because of things, and they're all got pronouns in their bios, and they're all flying certain flag. Look at that fella yesterday from the Labour Party, got arrested. I'll leave you to go and research that one yourself because it's just disgraceful. Paul Stenterford saying to us, society is going through a bit of a cultural change, a bit. People like Moffat don't like it one bit. No, they don't, do they? And I've been banging on about this for a while, isn't it? They want show business, entertainment. They all tell us. They've been telling us or trying to tell us how to live our lives, what to believe, how to do things. And it's not gone down well because we've all clicked now.
Yeah.
You know? It's not gone well for them at all, has it? And Spiel saying to us, what a fortuitous statement by Moffat. RTD has banged on about how representation is front and centre. What a vapid chump. Well said. I'm stunned by that. When I read that, guys, I knew I had to put it into Headlines and bring it to you all because I had to read it a couple of times. Go, what? What is he saying there? Does he watch the thing? Oh, did he? Tim Kins. Moffat did do Time Traveler's Wife for the US television, and it died after one season. Really? I had no idea. Did you guys know that?
I didn't know that.
I have a vague recollection of something being mentioned before, but only vaguely.
Really? Really? And it flopped and got cancelled, Tim Kins, after 1 year. Basically because he'd already done it in Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And that's probably why they went to him to produce.
That's all he does. That's all he does. That's all RTD do. They regurgitate. You know, the number of times he redid his own stories whilst he was still showrunner was ridiculous. And again, you know, we've talked recently, haven't we, about RTD and saying you don't need to know any of the classic Doctor Who, and he constantly mines it for the source of his stories. He can't help it. It's just going over stuff over and over and over again.
with Moffat, it wasn't just plot; it was dialogue as well. I mean, how many times use that "don't check my browser history" gag? They did that so many times. It's like,
and that timey-wimey nonsense.
Yeah.
This is what, and in any new version of Doctor Who, all this nonsense needs to go. They need to forget all this stuff from the Fitzson lot. They need to forget all of this and start again. Absolutely start afresh and get rid of all this and any nonsense to it in order to bring back the huge majority of fans and the public. Because, you know, whether we like it or not, it's going to have to be a success in Britain and then the world. And it's at the moment, it doesn't fit in, I don't think, to Britain or the world. I just don't think it has a place now, Doctor Who, after what they've done to it. I enjoyed the first series with Moffat running the show, says Moriarty, with the exception of the dinosaurs on the spaceship episode. Was that in the first series? I thought that was later on.
That was season 7, that one, I think. That was a Chibnall episode.
That was a Chibnall one. Surprise.
Yeah.
And Paul Thomas Asworth saying Moffat ruined Dracula and Sherlock. He should retire. I never understood the fuss over Sherlock from Moffat and Gatiss because...
Neither did I. Friends of mine loved it, but I couldn't get into it.
Well, I don't understand it because I'd read the Arthur Conan Doyle stories as a kid because I adored them. And basically what they did is they took the stories and put them into the 20th century or the 21st century or wherever it was and added gadgets and gazmos and mobile phones and stuff like that. That's it. And they took the original story. So they can't really claim those stories because they were Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's stories, bastardized. You know, and I never understood it. I watched them and enjoyed some of them, but as a Sherlock Holmes reader from back in the day, I thought, oh, they've missed that bit, or they've not done that bit, or well, this is going to go there. Because I remember...
It's like watching the War Games all over again, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Absolutely. John Mason saying to us, remember the wokest agenda, RTD, Chibnall and Moff. I see no reason why this kind of trading should ever be forgot. This is what I mean as well, John, when we look at these sort of things, this is not going to be forgotten. These days, it's all recorded. We will not forget these sorts of things. As a fan base, we're not going to be told, this isn't for you anymore. This isn't for you anymore. Go and touch grass. You're all wrong. You know, you're on the wrong side of history. We're not going to forget the tenants. We're not going to forget what they've all been banging on about. We have long memories. This is why I'm saying it has to be taken away from this group of people as quickly, effectively, and professionally as possible, given a little rest for the BBC to actually go and find people that will understand Doctor Who and bring it back properly as a big science fiction family drama. That's all we want. The Doctor fighting bug-eyed monsters every week. Yes, please. What's wrong with that? I don't want to hear about somebody's pronouns. I don't want to meet going, I'm a it or whatever it was. I don't want to hear about a transgender person who can save the universe simply because they've gone through the change. Do you know what? I'm not interested. Are you guys? I don't think so on this channel, honestly.
Not at all. They can make an entirely new program where all that crap is what it's all, you know, front and center. And it will die on its arse. We know it will because nobody wants to watch it. And I think they know that as well, which is why they're taking something that's so established and doing it there, because they know that it's already been around for decades, and therefore they think that gives it a little bit more gravitas. But it's, you know, it's still crap, isn't it?
Well, it's also dated because is anyone going to go back and watch The Star Beast in 50 years' time? Because it's so 2023. The stuff that we've got for 24 and for 25, which was filmed 23 into 24, is very much now, I reckon. And it's going to be banging on about RTD's agendas and beliefs then.
Well, you just have to watch the early part of New Who, season 1, 2, whatever, and you can see all the dated stuff in that already, and that's only 20 years old. You know what I mean? Some of the future ones are maybe okay, or the historical ones, but the modern day ones are really dated considerably. Really are.
And yet you can go back and watch something like The Seeds of Doom, which is set in the modern day Earth. Yeah, the modern day, it could be today. Yeah, it's only the fashions. It's only the fashions that will distinguish it. But because they were ambiguous with it, and said, "Oh," as Terence Dix once said to me and my chums at a convention, when we asked him, "When are they actually set?" 5 minutes in your future. Yeah, that's the trick. What a clever guy. What a clever thing that they did. It's 5 minutes in the future, according to Uncle Terry. He told us that himself. It's 5 minutes in your future. Gilliam, it's lovely to see you. How can a science fiction show be normal? The whole idea of sci-fi is escapism and getting away from the norm. Well said.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't understand that, do they? They've done it in all our science fiction greats, haven't they? Doctor Who, Star Wars, Star Trek, all of everything. You know, even the cultish things like Indiana Jones and stuff like this. They've put the modern day in. It really really, really annoys me. But well said on that one. Really, really lovely. Human presenting Time Lord, surely, says Jim Storm Crow. That would have been a twist and a laugh, and possibly even slagging them off a little bit, which is what RTD, of course, will never do. But yeah, you're right, Jim. You're right. Yeah, human presenting Time Lord. Oh,
let's not talk about the Star Beast, please.
No.
No, let's not. I was actually thinking about the comic strip version the other day, but that was far
That was
superior.
a wasted opportunity, wasn't it? Honestly,
it really was. Really was. Yeah, that was properly structured and had a proper ending. And if only he'd followed it properly, he's just.
You could have done all 3 episodes. All 3 episodes could have been just the Star Beast in 3 parts.
Yeah.
And not cut anything out and just built it around that, and it would have been fantastic without the messaging. But
I just remember in the comic strip that the red bus, London bus chase they had with the Meep on the bus with the Wrath Warriors. Imagine doing that on telly. That'd been great. Not the really crappy taxi that they did. Not nice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We've got here from Doc Martin, suitably chilled. Moffat wrote stories where the characters were referring to adventures we didn't see, and they were better sounding than the ones we did see. Yeah, I seem to recall that there was some sort of Egyptian thing going on at one point, wasn't there? I can't remember.
Yeah.
But that was all this, all that sort of stuff is just confusing for your casual viewer that comes in and thinks they've missed something. So I mean, that whole thing of trying to be clever doesn't wash with me. And SG saying it's sickening how the show has been destroyed over the last 20 years, mainly the last few. Fortunately for me, I turned off many years ago. SG, I think I've told you before, you're not missing anything. I came back specifically to give it another go with RTD, tied in with this channel being born. I don't know why I've bothered, to be quite honest.
We were so disappointed as well. That's such a shame, isn't it? Yeah.
It was terrible, wasn't it? It was absolutely terrible. I don't recognise the left, and I'm a lifelong lefty, Jim Stormcrow says. I'm with you, mate. I mean, they went too far for us, And as a mate of mine said to me once, we didn't leave the left. The left left us because they were going to places we couldn't possibly follow.
Yeah.
And look where we are now. And look, isn't it strange that all the uncovering of information about certain issues are people that have been pushing these agendas? Do you know what I'm saying? All the dodgy ones, all the arrests.
Yeah.
There we go. And they'll hopefully all get sorted by the proper people there. I hate them using the science fiction as a mirror for modern day. All fiction does that dramas do, soap operas do. They need to stop using it as a justification for their crap. Again, they've tried to rewrite that, haven't they, Carwin, to say science fiction is this because that's what they want it to be. It's not. It's science fiction. And they should know better. But they're too busy with all this ideological nonsense, which I think is now going to destroy the show once and for all. Paul Stenford, the morally depraved preaching to the rest of us. That may be how modern Doctor Who works, but that's not how fiction has traditionally worked in the past. Who actually believes his rubbish? I'm not sure people will. I hope not. I hope they don't. But when I read that, I thought I've got to share that with everybody because I just thought here he is showing his true colours. When it seems to be to me that when he's talking to something, as most of them do, which they think the fans aren't going to find or look at, they are showing sort of blah, 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 blah. But then when they're talking to somebody who they think is a bit above us, as it were, or they'll come out with their true colours. Does that make any sense to you? Like Gatwa was talking to things like Vanity Fair.
Yeah.
But
it's not saying it, is it? It's just, as someone said in the chat, it's word salad. It's nonsense. It's BS. It just doesn't make any sense,
No. Well, it's true. 2024, says Glenn Piper. Millions woke up to woke, definitely. Keir Starmer has helped wake people up inadvertently. He hasn't meant to, but you're right, Glenn. He has. And boy, is he in trouble, I assure you. And Tony Farrell's TARDIS, diversity, equity, inclusion, or didn't earn it. I've seen that an awful lot now, but again, the media won't put that down. But this didn't earn it thing, this DEI, it's that's around an awful lot, Tony Farrell's TARDIS, isn't it? There's an awful lot there with that going on. You're right. Gosh, look at all this. I think you're all as disappointed as I was to read that about Moffat. Some of you not surprised, but there is an air of disappointment in the chat, everybody.
Moffat gives off the kind of pompous arrogance that pretty much all of those that frequented the Fitzroy Tavern have done over the years. And
they know best.
And the fact that you just see the way that they've dealt with things like the war games, for example. changing it round just to suit their own stupid fanwank ideas.
And their own minority of people that agree with them. Yeah.
Don't worry, this will be Moffat's last episode, George of the World, so that's fine. He's not coming back.
But
I certainly hope
think
not.
about it.
Yeah.
10 years from now, maybe people will look back on this rubbish that we've had over the last few years, and they'll start rewriting it. They'll say, "Oh no, this was that," and people like Moffat and RTD will be outraged, and there'll be nothing they can do about it. Nothing at all.
They can't re-edit it or turn it into black and white. Can they just junk it? That'd be nice. Can they just?
That'd be nice. Yeah. But then again, as I say, that's easily done because anybody that comes in now needs to, and I'm saying this to hopefully somebody that's going to produce the show in the future, don't look at these 20 years. No. Just ignore it and start fresh. But base what you do on storytelling like proper Doctor Who did. Like Russell did when he brought it back. He insisted that was the 9th incarnation of the show. He insisted it was a continuation. If you've got to do it that way to bring in an audience, because I do think the tide is changing now, and I think people will want entertaining again at some point. And I don't think the entertainment industry is ready. We've got John Henson here saying to us, targeted agenda aimed at vulnerable young adults using popular science fiction shows. Sickening, isn't it? Absolutely sickening. Because they knew nobody would watch their own nonsense. We've got here Annoying Critic, hello to you. Star Trek was made to make people think. It didn't succeed all the time, but that is what it was created for. Okay. Doctor Who, not so much. Doctor Who was made to create entertainment.
Although it was educational to start off with, wasn't it? But
yeah, and then the Daleks came along 6 weeks in.
Yeah.
I mean, with Star Trek, America always had much more pronounced racism issues, I think, than
far more than Britain.
What the UK did.
Yeah.
So it was a big thing when you had Uhura being a senior figure on the bridge of the Enterprise and things like that, and interracial kisses and things like that. Whereas Doctor Who just had in 10th Planet, one of the astronauts, clearly a professional person, was a black guy, and that was it. It was just a black guy. And
what was interesting with Uhura was that was a great moment in TV, but she was still a receptionist, wasn't she? To be fair,
effectively,
yeah. But what Annoying Critic is saying here, I'll just disagree, which is fine. Science fiction has always been about meaningful, important ideas, including social ideas and politics. Look at H.G. Wells. Look at Star Trek. As Ian has said, though, with Star Trek, I take it you're American. Hello, nice to see you. British history is totally different. Our outlook is totally different. I've been saying this now since 2020 with all that annoying nonsense. We are not American. We don't have the same approach to life. We never have. Although now, no disrespect, we have been sort of infected by all that stuff coming on. Luckily, I think that's working its way out again. We have to rediscover our British roots and our British culture because it's totally different to American culture, because we didn't have those problems, as Ian was saying, that you guys did in your history. We were not that bad at all. And Ian said it beautifully there, but no, it is different. But, the politics we've got today, though, I mean, Doctor Who was never political. I don't care what anybody says. It may have suggested certain things, but it was always neutral. It didn't go to one side or the other. Now, they've tried to say that it has. They use things like the Happiness Patrol or the Green Death all the time. There was a science fiction element to those stories so that it was still accessible to anybody. Doctor Who today is no longer accessible, as we've just proved with Bedouin's rating analysis, to anybody. You have to be of a certain mindset to be able to enjoy or get something out of it. And that's what woke is. And that's what woke has done. And I don't think, because Moffat is very much embedded into all that, that he truly understands. And to say that the British public are not talking about it, how ignorant can you get? Because they are, and we are, especially now, so behind the times now after what's happened in this dreadful week, shocking, embarrassing week as well in Britain. They're just talking about it more and more. And gosh, God knows where we're going next in this country, but I think it's going to be rough. Mark Greaves, thank you so much for your super chat. The best thing about RTD's return to Doctor Who is that it brought so many brilliant people together on this channel. Well, thank you so much, Mark. That is wonderful. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you so much, Mark. Tying all that together, though, I wanted to just remind you of this from Russell T. Davis. 29th of January 2023, Doctor Who maestro Russell T Davies hits out at rubbish modern woke scriptwriters who are obsessed with diversity rather than loving television.
Is he looking in a mirror?
We've actually
Like
reported.
Wallace, doesn't he, from Wallace and
He does a
Gromit?
bit.
Yeah. We reported on this because it did get that sort of coverage there as well. But this was bizarre because what happened here is Russell T Davies did go to one of these lovely sort of lecture things for people that were coming into the media, and all this. And again, they forget all this is reported. And somebody asked him the question about DEI, and that's exactly what he said. He really did. He hit out at, that was the quote, rubbish scriptwriters who were obsessed with diversity rather than storytelling. So what went wrong with him? Where did he suddenly go, oh my goodness, I've got this wrong and I have to go with this? What happened? I would love to know. Russell, come on the show. Come and talk to us.
I'd be interested if he was pushed into that direction by the BBC and or Disney together, and that's where they've gone, because Disney's been hugely influenced by all this we've been talking about, haven't they? So,
but we know that he is an integral supporter and leader in the TQ cult. So I'm also thinking it might have been these people around him.
Yeah.
We've also reported recently on headlines that he got criticism for Series 1, Ncuti Gatwa Series 1 of alleged Doctor Who, for not having enough diverse writers. Most of the episodes, of course, were himself. Stephen Moffat wrote one. Those two from that awful show, Loki, wrote Rogue. So, he wrote the rest. Now, we reported on headlines that he did say, why would I want to give scripts away? Because it's money for him. Each script he writes, he gets paid. So he's getting paid his showrunner role, anything else that comes along, and for the scripts. So he's making a bit of money out of this. I would assume that's all alleged. So why would he do that? I certainly wouldn't if I was in his shoes. If I was getting paid by the script, I'd be churning them out left, right, and centre in a Terry Nation style every year. Yes.
Well, he is churning them out, that's for sure, yeah.
Churning them out.
Allegedly.
He isn't, because we've also talked about on the show, as you will know if you've been with us for a while, that he addressed those concerns from various people who love pronouns and love all this diversity and equity and inclusion nonsense by saying that the next series would be an improvement. And did you see this week it has been not confirmed, but this is a rumor. This is Sharma Woolfall. She is the writer of Supercell and Noughts and Crosses. Anybody heard of those?
Who? What?
Let's get into this particular story because this ties in nicely with what we've just been talking about. From the radiotimes.com, Doctor Who adds Supercell and Noughts and Crosses writer for season 15. They have reportedly penned an episode alongside RTD. Sharma Woolfall has joined the writing team on Doctor Who and reportedly penned an episode in the up-and-coming season. According to her agency listing, where she is credited for an untitled Bad Wolf returning fantasy series, and a report from the @set_Doctor Who X account, Woolfall has co-written the third episode of season 15 with Russell T Davies. The working title for the episode is said to be 5 Miles Deep. In a recent issue of Doctor Who magazine, showrunner Russell T Davies confirmed that 6 different writers will be on board for the new season. While remaining fairly tight-lipped on what the episodes would contain, he admitted his excitement for episode 6 of the new season, saying at a BAFTA event, "There's one next year where I have very specifically said, I want this film crossed with that thing, and that's the best episode ever." Here he goes again. We've heard it all before. Episode 6 next year. Watch episode 6 next year. Watch episode 6 next year, everybody. Watch episode 6 next year, everybody. It's a riot. My God, it's a riot. It's hilarious. I'm not sure hilarity should be actually in any sort of Doctor Who right now because that slapstick didn't work last time around, did it?
We'll be the judge of that, folks, won't we? That's to be honest.
We certainly will. But according to Stephen Moffat, there is no secret agenda.
Yeah.
And Moffat is wrong on this point as well because RTD came out and said it absolutely very clearly. Yes, we will have more diverse writers coming up for Doctor Who now, and he's gone out. Now, it's also very interesting that the Radio Times article there sort of alludes to the fact he's co-written it, so he's still getting some money.
Yeah.
But as you say, Paul, we'll be the judge because we all know you can either write Doctor Who or you can't write Doctor Who.
Yeah.
As Terence Dix, Robert Holmes, Eric Sayward, Andrew Cartmel, Verity Lambert, Derek Sherwin, and others all stated you can either write the show or not write it. Look at the amount of scripts that the various 26 years of production teams turned down over those 26 years because they didn't quite get in there. Christopher Bidmead also did that, didn't he?
Yeah.
You can either write it or write. So one of the things we will be looking at when Series 2 comes along is, are the DEI hires actually a thing? Because it looks that way. Am I going insane, guys?
But I don't think you're going to say, but I don't think Russell can write Doctor Who either, to be fair. He can't do it. Yeah.
That's fair. But wasn't that Bad Wolf's entire modus operandi anyway? I mean, they were doing those writing courses, weren't they? And it was pretty much, you've got to be trans, gay, lesbian, bisexual, disabled, and black in order to apply. And that's just the way Bad Wolf seems to operate. So it doesn't surprise me, to be honest.
Yeah. Bill Lowry is saying to us here, actually, Supercell had Ryan the Plank in it. Who's that?
Oh, he played the part of the one of Jodie's companions. I've forgotten the name.
Oh, I see. Right. Oh, the guy. Right. Okay, I know who you mean. Bradley Walsh's son.
That's the one. Yeah. Forgotten his name. Yeah.
Somehow it was his son. Okay. Yeah. Was he adopted or something?
No. Bradley Walsh's character marries the granny, and obviously that's an actress who's in To Be Honest, Sharon D. Clark. So he marries her, so he's married in the family, so he's like an adopted step grandson.
He had this disability, dyspraxia, I think, that featured in the first episode, and then was never mentioned until the last episode.
Apparently, according to Bill, that chap was in Supercell. It wasn't bad. The first season shows promise. Where is it, Bill? What is it? Do we care? Tim Kins is selling it to us. Noughts and Crosses is a very blunt alternative Earth story all about racism. Oh, how great. Really? Boring. And Adoring Praise is saying Supercell is on Netflix. Well, I'm glad I've missed it. I really am.
The 5 miles deep thing, that in the trailer, I have a vague recollection of them in kind of like deep diver suits going down into the water. That was a clip in the trailer, I think, maybe. If you're interested.
No. And there's lots of this in the chat here. Juliana saying, who exactly? Who's Lost Eyes is saying, Marjorie Blackman, the original writer of Noughts and Crosses, wrote on Chibnall Who and wrote Rosa. Right, okay. I know Marjorie Blackman because she was a very successful young adult author. So I'm aware of her. Lex Kane is asking, who is she? No idea. Don't know who this woman is. I don't know. But again, they can't deny it. And it's horrible that I'm saying it. She ticks a box or two. As always, says Paul Stenford, they're chasing the DEI hires instead of getting talented writers for the show. It speaks volumes, really. That's why the show's in the toilet, isn't it? And he did come out and say he was going to get more diverse writers on the show. And it seems like he's gone out and done that. And he's gone to things that he would watch or he agrees with. And hired them. I mean, it's very hard to say all this stuff because it goes against everything that I personally think. But again, as we've been saying, and we say an awful lot, that's not how you do this. This DEI stuff has destroyed or contributed to destroying society, in my point of view, on all manner of things. We've been seeing this very week, where you can't say a certain word or you can't talk about certain subjects because you're going to be called an ist. And therefore, everybody's been covering up for certain things for 20-something years. And people have been getting away with it. I am so angry about that topic this week. You would not believe. 20-something years. And only now we're hearing about certain things coming up again and again and again. And it's shocking. And it's all down to DEI. And the people that are supposed to be protecting us, allegedly, telling people not to talk about things or publish certain reports because they've all been on unconscious bias training, quite frankly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Shocking. And this is what's happening. So this DEI stuff, which Russell has gone out to say, don't worry about it. There's going to be more people of colour and there's going to be this and that in the next series and all this sort of stuff. This thing is screened in May and people are going to see through it straight away after what we're going through in the country now, aren't they?
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen? I just checked the name because I was forgetting those fires that are in Los Angeles at the minute.
Yes.
That were all climate change, and now they're finding video of people actually setting fire to them with Bunsen burners.
Exactly. But that's how their minds. And look at who's actually doing this as well. Let's not get into it, but look who's throwing the things. Hang on a minute. It's shocking, isn't it? But they won't admit this. And actually, this week as well, huge congratulations to GB News and Talk Radio. GB News for breaking the story with that very talented young journalist. What a guy he is. And for sticking to his not taking, anything and just going with it and reporting properly. And then Talk Radio getting the baton up and running with it as well. When the BBC and ITV, nothing. I was at my mum's the other night, guys, watching television, and she put on the ITN news, and I was disgusted because all they led for most of the show were the terrible fires that are going on in LA and how it's affecting celebrities. Big bloody deal. When there's normal people there, the celebrities can afford to build another one and get on with it and insured up to the hilt. But those normal people have lost their lives, their jobs, their homes. They can't afford to start again.
Yeah.
And the big scandal in the United Kingdom, not mentioned at all by them. They were deflecting from the news. And I thought that's because you don't want to be accused of being ists.
They are scared. They're not the definition of what journalists should be. But I mean, the thing that struck me with the LA fires was the 3 senior people in the Los Angeles Fire Department, all 3 women. They're all called Kristen, bizarrely, and they're all lesbians. And the fact is, they're diversity hires, and they're no good at the job. They've been a catastrophic failure. And one of them there's an interview, it's out there, you're able to see it. And that she's saying, when there's a fire, when you're in an emergency situation, you are comforted when you are rescued by somebody who looks like you. So, let's have more. And it's like, no, if I was in the middle of the fire, I wouldn't give a shit who was helping me get out. As long as they got me out, I'd be happy. There could be black, white, pink, yellow, blue. I don't care. But she then addressed a comment that somebody had said about, would you be able to carry my husband out of a fire? And her response was basically, paraphrasing, but her response was probably not. Probably couldn't carry your husband out. But then again, it's his fault for being in that situation in the first place.
I saw that and was nearly sick.
Absolute.
Really? God.
This is the problem with the DEI setup, isn't it? And we're from a generation that just hired people for being able to be the best qualified for the job. But now you have to tick the box to do that. I just want to very quickly get to a couple in the chat. Frank Spencer, it all depends what blueprint she has been given. Absolutely. I totally agree with that. Frank then goes on to say, yes, but she does tick boxes. I do, I'm holding judgment, of course, until I see the actual episode. Of course I am. But I am now at this point, as many of us are in this country, questioning this DEI stuff. I really am, because it has, in my opinion, contributed to breakdown in society, the way we knew it. When you've got people doing jobs, they are not qualified to do the job, as Ian's just illustrated as well, that's going on in America. John Mason saying, JT, this has been going on since the 60s. I know, and it's heartbreaking, isn't it? And, you can get into trouble for talking about it. And that's there are certain elements where a certain person who owns certain platforms can be right. I think. I really, really do. Annoying Critic is saying, well, the argument for DEI is that there are people who are discriminated against and we need to counter that. I know what the argument was. I was there when they started to introduce it at the turn of the century, and I didn't necessarily get it then. But my argument is it's swung too far, because all they're doing is tick boxing. And I had this, Annoying Critic, first time from a job I finished doing last year, and I can't say too much about it, especially on this platform, but there was evidence of it there, and that's when I started to think, this is not on.
But the thing about it is, people aren't just identified by their sexuality or their skin color or whatever, so or the disability. They have to be taken on their own merits if they can do the job. That should be the important thing.
Exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
I understand what Annoying Critic's saying, but I mean, if they were trapped in a fire, would they like to be rescued by somebody that was capable of getting them out there? Or would they be quite happy to burn to death, knowing that the person that was sent in to rescue them couldn't, but they were black and disabled and disadvantaged, so therefore got the job on those grounds? What would they prefer? I think when push comes to shove, they would be quite happy to see DEI go out the window and people have jobs based on merit.
You want people in certain jobs that are going to do the job. And I joked about this with guys I know in the Army, the RAF, and the Navy, because a lot of them were disgruntled because, of course, the government, the previous government and the current government is supposed to allegedly ushered in all this pronoun DEI stuff, right? And I was saying, all right, so you're telling me that you'll go to war representing me, protecting me, my friends, my family, my country, and before you shoot someone dead, you're going to ask them what their pronouns are you? Because that's what you've been taught. Because I guarantee you the enemy won't. They'll have you. And the guys are not daft, but this is what they're all been doing. Unconscious bias training, one of the most evil trainings you could go on in the world, where basically somebody tells you that you are biased with is or phobic reactions. Nonsense, because it makes you aware of other people's differences. And this is what DEI does. This is what tick boxing does. So for RTD to come out and say to people that have criticized him for writing the first series, don't worry about it, we're going to be more diverse for the next lot. That means he's now gone out of his way to tick those boxes. And they may not be the right people for the show. This is what time will tell. This is what season 2 is going to tell. We are going to be reviewing these 8 episodes as they come up. We're going to be looking at all this. If they're good, we're going to be saying so. If they're bad, we're going to be asking why. And if it's based around what's just been out broadcast, we're going to have a lot to say. I tell you, Bill, saying to you, Ian, I've read that that woman has 22 years of engineering and firefighting behind her. Not that she ever mentioned it. No. And Mudcrab is saying to us, New Zealand Navy went all DEI for their ship captains. They sunk one of their own ships, then tried to claim it wasn't an embarrassment.
First battleship lost outside of World War II for New Zealand.
And they covered it up eventually, didn't they? Because the press, again, the media don't like talking about this stuff because it goes against their philosophies. I refer back to the BBC and ITN not reporting properly on the atrocities that are being unearthed this week. Stephen Braddock saying, JT, I won't say where I work, but from now on, we are no longer allowed to say sir or madam in case of causing any offence. Well, you cause the offence and tell them to bugger off, because that's just nice.
Having a summer experience, you can't say ladies and gentlemen, because that's going to offend people.
Which is exactly why I do it. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It's not only polite, but it's the truth of the matter, isn't it? Annoying critic.
That line in time of the rally, isn't it? Yeah. So
of course, says an annoying critic, DEI should only hire qualified people. DEI should be about searching to find qualified people. But I got hired because I knew someone. Many people do for many jobs. Well, lucky you. But I can tell you here now, if you are a white male of a certain age in this country, you are not getting hired because you do not tick a box. And that's where we are in this country. And I know that for a fact. If you do not tick those boxes, look at the amount of things we've got from the BBC, ITV, Channel 4, and other businesses that are blatantly discriminating and allowed to do it, where they say, if you are white in or this certain demographic, you need not apply. That is racism, but it's okay to be racist against white people for some unbeknown reason. And yet still in our country, whether people like it or not, we're predominantly pale-skinned. Might not be like that for the next 10 years, but we are at the moment. And I just can't I can't understand why it's one rule for one and one rule for another. When I was always hiring, you would put the advert out there, you would get in all the CVs, you wouldn't be looking for things like DEI. So you saw a name, address, a phone number, resume. And then you looked at what matched what you wanted to hire and you brought them in. And it was always a surprise as to who walked through the door. One of the best things about it, who was I going to meet today? Now all they do is, that person's going to be white, that person's going to be white, two British name. Oh, Smith, we're not having them. Oh, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, bring them in. Oh, sorry, I don't agree with it. Komodo is saying next, it'll be surgeons and other professionals who become underqualified. Actually, I've been hearing this week that's actually starting to happen, Komodo, here in the UK.
Yeah.
I don't know. And Mudcrap is saying, no, DEI is openly not about hiring qualified people. It is ensuring there's a correct balance within the workforce. Absolutely. And yet here in this country, here in this country, I remember this coming in at the turn of the century, and it was all about ensuring that buildings were accessible to people with disabilities, whether it be wheelchair or any other accessible area, because it was all handles, it was all stairs, and that's why that mainly was brought in. But the woke mob, as soon as we're talking about that subject, have now expanded it all to include mythology and nonsense like non-binary and all this weird stuff. So that's now gone on the tick boxes. How many non-binary people have you got in the office? Oh, bugger off, none, because they're human beings and you can't be non-binary. The important thing was to make sure that if you were in a wheelchair, you could go into the office and work, because that is important for people. You've got to have other people around you to work in. All this escalation of working from home, you've got to balance it up with actually being with other people, in my eyes. That's what the DEI stuff was for. And it's just been expanded and built on and built on and built on. And I think it's now at the stage where, especially after this week, it's got to go.
Yeah,
got to get rid of it. I don't know what you guys think about that.
I don't think anything good has come from DEI, to be quite honest.
No.
As soon as you stop recruiting on merit, on ability, then you're on a slippery slope. I don't think it achieves anything at all.
Just Jordan saying to us, but accessibility is still a bloody myth. Even now, it's a nightmare. Trust me. I absolutely do. And I've seen this. There have been many buildings in the last 7, 8, 9 years that I've been into and saying, how's somebody in a wheelchair going to get in here? Do you not know the law? And I actually had once, Just Jordan, somebody saying to me, oh, but it costs money. Who cares? Get it done. You're breaking the law. Somebody in a wheelchair might be able to do one of your jobs. Bring them in. I can't stand all that side of stuff. Jason Parker saying to us, how long until DEI starts deciding who can or cannot be assisted in healthcare? Oh, it sounds mad, but so did DEI hiring years ago. Ian, you might know more about this, but I'm hearing that that's already started.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. I think it has. Yeah, it's shocking, really. Very disturbing.
There's lots. Honestly, this week, if you're not in the United Kingdom, you cannot understand what this week has had an effect on the majority, I would say, of the British public, who are outraged right now. Our government seems to be allegedly letting us down. Certainly, our news facilities, bar two, from what I can tell, are letting us down. There's an awful feeling of we must hush this down again. We mustn't talk about DEI. There's an awful lot of worry.
People are being criminalised, aren't they? People are being criminalised if they talk about it, and that's the thing. If you're doing all these things and everything is getting noticeably worse, significantly worse, and if you object to it, you are labelled and criminalised, which is very much a left-wing tactic. Then ultimately, it pushes towards not a very pleasant future. You can see
Blade Runner.
Yeah, you can see significant civil unrest if they're not careful, because you cannot arrest everybody. You cannot put everybody in prison, and you cannot ignore and refuse to put in prison the people that are actually really being lawbreakers. You know, it's not looking good at the minute.
It's not looking good at all. And the fact that they won't ignite agreements to deport, dare I say the word, because of DEI, tolerance. I personally feel very let down by this, because I remember the government of the day, happened to be Labour, telling us, and I was supporting them back then, telling us that this sort of stuff was better for society. It was going to enrich us, and it was going to benefit us, and it was going to do this and that.
I can think of 250,000 young white girls that feel very enriched, I'm sure.
Oh, Glenn Piper's saying to us, hi, Glenn, isn't it crazy that Donald Trump is now being seen as a savior, as he is against the woke agenda? Let's hope things change, guys, and I hope Trump can influence change over here. Yeah, I agree with that. It's incredible, isn't it? That it shows how the world has changed, and it shows you just how far they got it wrong in America over the last 4 or 5 years as well, because people, they rejected it in their millions. But it has given confidence to people across the world. We've also seen this week, as you'll all know, a hugely important social media platform changing its DEI policies, which again, what did I think of immediately? Doctor Who, because I'm a fan. And I thought immediately of, oops, season 2 is well out of date now. I am right. It's not going to get any better.
It's been incredible with Zuckerberg, hasn't it? I mean, he sat there basically and he represented the company that denied that there was ever any censorship, has now just declared that they're going to stop censorship.
Yeah.
You could not make it up.
Yeah.
You could not make it up.
Yeah. Just Jordan coming back to us saying, I can well bloody believe this, JT. Seeing twisting an idea to fit too expensive. Hey, we'll make it about something else. And then they'll go and waste money on toilet paper or something ridiculous like that. Just Jordan.
Yeah.
Something shocking. Because, you know what it's like at the end of the year. You know, it's a case of basically, oh, we've got this money. What do we do with it? And they talk, how many bits of paper do you need? Does anybody need any paper clips? Does anybody want
Let's buy some office furniture and spend our budget? That kind of
yeah, exactly.
You know, you were talking about buildings and everything else, but I mean, it's getting from A to B. I mean, I am so grateful that I do not have to use a wheelchair, and I hope I never have to.
Yeah.
But you know, the stories I hear and the things I see. There's a very prominent Canadian lady campaigner for this. Disabled access on air travel is horrendous, but you just think also trains and buses. Buses are getting a bit better, but air travel is horrendous. This one particular lady, she's had chairs smashed by the airline. You know, they've just like thrown them in and then just chucked them out the plane, and the chair costing tens of thousands of dollars just been smashed beyond repair, and you know, they're being confined to a standard wheelchair until their new one is built, and it's horrendous. They are treated like subhuman citizens.
Shocking. Absolutely shocking. All this, I mean, this is ridiculous, isn't it? You know, and this is what is happening now. We've got ourselves as a society into this whole ridiculous situation of, if you don't fit this frame, or if you don't fit this tick box, and then we've got all this ism that's going on about other things now, and I'm very concerned where we all are. It's just ridiculous. But you know, here we are then when it comes back to Doctor Who as well. It's not looking good for season 2 at the moment, is it?
No.
Not, as we were saying at the top of the show, thanks to Bidweir's analysis, the ratings for Doctor Who are dire for this version of Doctor Who. We know it was written at the same time as season 1. It was produced with just a couple of months, with just a couple of weeks break, as it were. It's in the can. It's on the way. It's going to be broadcast around about May 2025. The world has changed, and it doesn't look as if Doctor Who has either. We're going to be talking about all this. You've got to stay with us as we talk about this. I'm going to reiterate again, if we are wrong about the next series and it's the best thing since sliced bread, as we said last year, we will admit that and we will say that. And part of me wants it to be, but I don't think it's going to be. I really
it's
don't.
It's going to be an uncut loaf, isn't it? Let's be honest.
I think it's going to be more of the same. We've got lots of you in the chat with us again. Thank you so much to everybody that's been here with us, giving us your points of view. That's what Who's View is all about, and we love to see you all. What would Sunday nights be without headlines and without us all getting together to have a discussion? We'll be back next Sunday at 8 o'clock with headlines here on the channel. Don't forget that we're also going to be back on Wednesday with our first of our season 7 at 55 celebrations as we look at our season 7 as an overview. So come and join us with that, with your favorite moments from season 7. Really looking forward to that. Some cracking stories there, 4 of them, but they're cracking. What a show it's been. To Ian, Third Doctor Ian, and to Paul, thank you as ever. It's been a big show again, so thank you very much for all that.
You're welcome.
Thank you to everybody that's been in the chat. Thank you as ever for all your points of view. Please subscribe to the channel. If you have already subscribed, please make sure you are still subscribed to the channel. That's all I'm saying on that particular one for today. And until we see you next time, have a great week. Ciao, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.